Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPMP News. It's May 9th, 2026, and we've been watching and reporting on events that have been happening for the past 6 years. And we're still nowhere closer, it seems, to our freedom, and we don't seem to be any closer to getting rid of the element that is within our government that is compromised in some way, right? You're seeing small amounts of people get arrested, but nothing like what we thought would happen, right? When they were saying that there was hundreds of thousands of indictments waiting to be opened up, and that there would be huge amounts of arrests happening every week. There would be so many arrests happening that you wouldn't be able to keep up with it all, right? And then what happened? Well, you don't see any major people getting arrested like we thought would happen. We're not seeing senators and Congress people arrested. We're seeing people like Comey arrested, who in the scheme of things isn't really a large player. He's a smaller player. He's a minion of somebody, right? He's a Clinton minion, we know that. We see an advisor close to Fauci got arrested. Does that mean Fauci's next to be arrested? Because if he was going to be arrested, it should have happened already. Think about how long ago COVID happened. And if they had their way, we would be in a completely different world right now. You'd be locked into a city somewhere or something like that. You wouldn't be able to move. Your travel would be curtailed. You wouldn't be able to move about freely anymore. We got people getting SNAP who are in Porsches, who are affording massive cars, beautiful cars. I've never even owned my own car. Actually owned it my whole life. I've never actually owned pretty much anything. I've never owned my own apartment. I've never owned my own car. I've never owned any piece of land. These are all things I'd love to have. I just don't have enough funds to have all those things. I'd love to have 40 acres and a mule, right? Is what people were promised back in the day when the slaves were freed, right? But that actually didn't happen, if you remember, right? If you read the story on what happens after the Civil War, well, they kill Lincoln, right, at the end of it, or during it, and what happens? Well, that promise of 40 acres and a mule was not correct, because what happened in the South was some of those landowners, some of those big plantation owners were allowed to go back and reclaim their land from some of the slaves who had taken it from them after they were freed, right? That's fact. And if you look at, like in Mississippi, for example, when a lot of Republicans wanted to vote in the new elections that were coming, well, the Democrats just burnt up all the votes. They didn't give a shit. You think you're going to vote? No, we're going to send the KKK through every fucking town around here, and we're going to scare the fuck out of you. We're going to kill a bunch of you and make sure you don't vote. That's the Democratic Party. It wasn't Republicans that were doing that, right? That's the big scam. That's what you're living in now. So I was looking more into Dr. Charles Lieber, because he just defected to China, and this guy is all up in the nanotech world. He's a nano guy. Is part of what he's into, right? This is this is an experiment that took place in 2019 entitled Nano-Enabled Direct Contact Interfacing of Syringe Injectable Mesh Electronics. And there's a bunch of Chinese different scientists, and who else was in on this? Charles Lieber. This was done at the Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology at the John A. Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. It's Center for Brain Science. Where else? Harvard University. Cambridge, right? Here's another Harvard University thing where they're talking about putting nano into your body, right? Mesh nano. Electronic nano mesh. Which could just be a very thin mesh of something that has a nano electronic inside it, right? That's could be releasing nano, we don't know. Department of Education launches probe into Harvard's foreign funding, February 13th, 2020. Also something having to do with Lieber. Before he's discovered as working for China, right? There's suspicions that something's going on. Here's Charles Lieber nanotechnology by grazing the surface, November 5th, 2021. You could look into that article. So Lieber is obviously somebody that is very skilled in nanotechnology. Maybe Charles Lieber plays more roles than just hydrogel nanotech used in COVID jabs, right? He's one of the people involved in the hydrogel, remember, which is what the patch that they were thinking about giving you, remember, with the was going to put a certain tattoo on your hand so that they know it would spell out C or whatever, that okay, we know that this guy has the COVID vaccination, because when we push his hand under the ultraviolet light, it showed the tattoo shows up because the hydrogel is inside of his body, right? And what is the hydrogel inside the hydrogel? Luciferase, right? That's why it glows, right? That's what they call it. It's luciferase, right? It's a generic term for the class of oxidative enzymes that produce bioluminescence, right? Something that lights up, that has its own light source, right? There's certain kinds of jellyfish and different things that light up like that, right? It's usually distinguished from a photoprotein. The name was first used by Raphael Dubois. Why'd you name it that, though, right? Why'd you name it luciferase for? And it's sort of like what fireflies, it's the same thing like that fireflies use, right? What's luciferase? Why is it put into, it's a bioluminescent research tool. We were talking about luciferase like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, that it was in the vaccine, it was inside this hydrogel that they wanted to suspend the vaccine in, right? I did a whole show on it, and the patch that they're using looks like snake's fangs, right? It's all about the serpent, right? It's all there. You can look into luciferase. So Lieber's involved with nano. Then what comes out is finally there is reports that the damage to military bases is more extensive overseas than was let on at first. In fact, it looks like a lot of these bases are either fully non-operational or severely compromised, right? Portraits of victims reportedly killed in U.S.-Israeli airstrikes are displayed in front of a destroyed residential building. So some of this stuff is, we don't know the real damage because they're not showing it to you. So could Israel be completely surrounded and nobody would know? Maybe. We just don't know, right? There's no reporting coming out of some of these areas that can be described as anything close to being fair and honest news, right? We just don't know. It looks like most of the bases that we built in the Middle East have been destroyed or severely compromised. That's the first you've actually heard that, though, right? Like I say, we here at this channel, I'm the only person. I always say we. It's really nobody else here. It's just one guy in a room. It's always been one guy in a room the whole time. I've just been one guy in a room. That's it. One guy with a high intuition level, right? Who can see and the bullshit pretty much like it's night and day right now. So I can't read you the full article because it's behind a firewall. There's also a Washington Post article that's similar, also behind a firewall. Can we listen to the article for 7 minutes? I don't know why they put all these behind firewalls for. I gotta subscribe now to NBC for $6 a month to read this crappy article? Really? That's unbelievable. You know what you're also seeing is some of these pundits on the other, all of these old pundits, right? Like the Fulfords and them. Now they're starting to cut their videos in half and say, hey, you got to subscribe to get the rest of this video. They're not even letting their propaganda message out fully to the masses unless you go and join or do something with their channel that you have to. Like join Nino Rodriguez's channel and pay $5 a month to him to hear his his propagandistic message. Right? It's the same with this. Why would I want to pay? Why would I pay NBC to read your propaganda? I just wanted to show you the article. Here's another article I found. Nanowire probes could drive high-resolution brain-machine interfaces. Nano Today 2019. So this stuff was all just waiting to be worked on, and how's a good way we can do that? Well, if we put some of this nano in there, into the vaccine, and then we could see what it does, and we could figure out what we want it to do in your body. Remember the doctor, Dr. Nowak, who got killed? Right after he was talking about, he said it, he was saying it's not just, what was it? It's not just, what was that term he was using? It's not, there's two different kinds, right? I'll think of it. It was hydro something. It was the Dr. Nowak's video. It was so many years ago now. I can't remember what that he was exactly talking about. It was that there was two different kinds that we weren't seeing it, right? We were only seeing the one kind of thing he was talking about. Let me see if I could find it. Remember, he was arrested and then he was killed in prison, right? Papers and other documents. Dr. Nowak. Andreas Nowak. German police arrest alternative medicine doctor during live broadcast, right? Remember? Dr. Nowak, right? He was talking about hydro... What was it? Darn it. Here's the actual video. We've watched it before. Here's them breaking into his house. The mRNA vaccine cutting through blood platelets like a razor. Hydroxide, something hydroxide. Yeah. Okay, now you remember what happened, right? They killed Dr. Nowak because he was talking about that it was hydroxide, right? It was something hydroxide. That it was a different, there was two kinds of it, right? I'll get back to you. I remember it. I just got to go find it now. That's why they killed him, right? Because he was telling you that they could, the nano could be self-replicate into whatever they want, right? A wafer that was so thin and super sharp that it could slice up your blood vessels. It could be turned into some kind of an antenna. Sorry, I'm having a lot of brain fog these last few days, friends. I haven't been sleeping well, so I apologize. My recall has just really been hampered. A lot of people are being psychically attacked right now, and physically attacked right now with different stuff. That's what I'm hearing. Highly empathic people, or people who are either empathic types, sensitive, starseeds, whatever you want to call them, are being highly attacked. I mean, I've been attacked for years. And I just never understood why all these things were happening to me until I started to watch a lot of other videos and realize I'm not the only person this is happening to. This is happening to people like David Wilcock. This is happening to other people who have been tortured. And the end game of it is they want you to kill yourself. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what happened to David Wilcock, if he actually, but I still think he was a gatekeeper in the end. So, because like there's certain people out there, right, that show up and they at first you think, well, okay, you look at Alex Jones and you don't know anything about him. You say, okay, well, this guy's trying to tell me the truth, right? He's definitely on the side of the good, right? He's definitely on the side of the people. He wants to get the information out, but does he? Right? Does he? Right? Really? Or is he just being told what to say and given money to do so and is controlled? That's what it turned out Jones was, in my view. And then you say, well, like a lot of the things he said came true, like happened later. It's like, did they though? Or were they already there and it was just he's, making observations that others have already made, like Jordan Maxwell and others, who I think were also murdered, right? Someone like a Jordan Maxwell was murdered. Why? Because he had the information. He actually was studying books since the 60s and the 50s, whatever. His whole life he's reading and amassing knowledge. But he's double the age of Wilcock, right? He has the information because he's spent a life in libraries reading books. You couldn't say that about Wilcock. He had got the information from some other source that we're not aware of, or it was given to him, right? Is my point. Because if you really wanted to save humanity, would you be going on a show and you're making 10 grand a month doing it, living in a nice log cabin somewhere? I don't know. I'm not living that well. I don't make any money. I don't take donations every time I go online and getting hundreds and hundreds of dollar donations from people inside my some chat that I'm in. So it's highly dubious to me. And then that person disappears, and it's a huge story that takes away from the main story that we're trying to find out, right? But there's other angle to it, right? He's involved in this, apparently, this company that's supposed to be making anti-gravitic craft soon, that's supposed to be coming out with some big statement that never came out, right? Nanowire probes could drive high-resolution brain-machine interfaces. Yeah, that's what they're doing. That's what they were doing. They were checking into that for years, and then they said, yep, we can do it. Okay, launch COVID. How can we get everybody to take this thing, and that we can hide whatever we want in it if it's nano, right? It's so small, you'll never see it. Were people being allowed to see what was in the vaccine? No. In fact, when people asked to have the insert from the vaccine, it turned out there was nothing there, right? Remember? Remember when a woman went into one of the pharmacies and said, hey, can I see the insert before you shoot me up with that, which you're allowed to see? And they said, yeah, sure, here it is. And there was nothing in there, right? It was empty. Remember that? Well, what's in this thing then? Federal lawsuit vets COVID concealments, including Charles Lieber's connections to the plague, the plot, and psychotronic warfare, i.e. wireless mind control. That was Medical Veritas, another article about Charles Lieber talking about plague, all kinds of stuff. So who is this guy really? What is he really doing? Because I was hearing back in the 90s that, that people were, previous to that, doing stuff where they were trying to make a super soldier, and it was like some horrible failure the first few times they tried it, right? They literally tried to do sort of like a Wolverine, right? But where they don't know how to attach the adamantium properly to your bones, so they just did some like prehistoric type, experiments on human beings trying to attach metal to people's skeletal structure, which is obviously not going to work too well, right? So it's like they're literally trying to do what you're seeing in the movies over and over again, trying to make a super soldier. It's just like the movie I showed you with Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? Which was a horrible movie, but it was showing like kind of what they were trying to do, right? Even that was in the 80s. So imagine what they could do now, like 20 years later, 40 years later, 45 years, 50 years later almost. Somebody said, my stream is getting buried in the mosh pit of news. Yeah, there's 5,000 people doing it. Just look on Rumble how many different people are doing it, right? There's a million different news pundit guys. That's why I think it's time for me to retire and do something else. I was doing it back in 2020 when there was way like half the people less doing it than are now. But part of why I'm doing this is to leave a huge amount of information behind that people in the future hopefully will be able to access and say, hey, this is what we need not to ever do again. This is why the past was so bad. This is what happened. This is what these evil people were doing. They were subjugating mankind for eons and eons, using covet means, using control of information, using religious and other means of control, as well as in the future being able to literally control your mind. How long have people been trying to hypnotize other people? Universal Soldier, right? That was the name of the movie. I got the IMDb right here. You want to watch a really bad Jean-Claude Van Damme flick? And who was the other guy in it? What was his name? Dolph Lundgren, right, right. Soldiers who were killed in action are brought back to life in a top secret military experiment to create superhuman warriors. Want to watch the trailer for Universal Soldier? Let's check it out. Here's the trailer for Universal Soldier.
It was a top secret government project.
Pac-Man eyes, all of them.
Designed to create the perfect soldier.
No man would ever again have to die in the service of his country.
Cryogenically preserved.
Okay, guys, memory clearance.
Genetically enhanced.
Okay, I don't want to get any copyright, so you can watch the rest of it at your leisure. I just wanted to show you a little bit of it, right? Horrible movie. Todd Blanche, I don't think I will, because that's just the trailer, right? I didn't release anything that's copyrighted. That was just the trailer, and just a brief moment of it. The name of the movie is called Universal Soldier. You can watch it at your leisure online on some of this any streaming service. I'm sure would probably have it. I think it was just on one of the streamers I saw it, or regular TV a while back on cable or whatever. Todd Blanche hints that there's more damning evidence against former FBI Director James Comey. Rest assured, it's not just the Instagram post. So there's a bunch of other stuff happening, right? But they want to release the UFO stuff now. And from what I've seen so far, I'm not impressed. I didn't see any like major stuff. I didn't see an alien that was clear and visible on my screen. Jimmy Fallon's bizarre antics irk F1 icon and painful Miami Grand Prix interview. Don't do that again. Yeah, he was biting onto the microphone. He was doing something. He's an alcoholic. Everybody knows that. What do you think? He's going to be not sauced up at the F1? Of course he's going to be sauced up. He's an alcoholic. Alcoholics are the worst, I think. Plus heroin. One of those two is probably one of those two addicts is probably the worst. You ever know a beer alcoholic? That's no fun. Drinking cases of beer, and all day long. It's not bizarre. He's an alcoholic. Everyone knows it. It's like putting an elephant on a postage stamp. Plans for a 5-story Rolex store with a champagne bar and bridal studio in Florida City sparks outrage from locals. Yeah, what do you need a 5-story Rolex store for? Do I need 5 stories of Rolex? I don't think so. That's out of character for Florida. You don't have a lot of tall buildings there. That's why people like Florida. There's not, unless you go to Miami, there's not a lot of skyscrapers around, right? Except for Miami. That's even too much for New York, I said. Forget Florida. I mean, 5-story Rolex store, do we really need that? No. Is there that many people lining up to buy that watch? No. Most people can't even afford it. Most people can't even afford the cheapest one they make. Which I think is like the silver one, right? That's like probably 15, 20 grand now. I don't know. Silver Rolex? I don't know. What do they call it? How much is a silver Rolex going for? What's the oversteel with the white gold? How much is this? That's 12 grand. Right? That's like the cheapest one of the cheaper ones they make, right? This kind. Nothing wrong with this. It's a beautiful watch. Would I spend $12,000 on a watch? No. Especially not now in New York, where some guy's going to crack you over the head and steal it from you probably the first chance they get. You're better off buying a fake Rolex from the Senegalese dudes on Canal Street who are selling them all over the place. Just go buy a fake Rolex and pretend it's real. Most people can't tell the difference anyway. Yeah, it's the $100,000 one. Yeah, I got it just yesterday, bro. I paid for all cash on Canal Street. 100 grand. Yep. America's crude oil port sees record high traffic as world flocks to Texas while Strait of Hormuz is suffocated by Iran. So is this part of the plan, right? Somebody's messing around. They're messing around with the price of oil in a big way. They're making it go up and down like crazy. But what does that do to people who play with the futures market? You can make a shit ton of money real quick. Right? If oil's going from 115 back down to 99, yeah, you're making a shit ton of money if you know it's going which way it's going. You can also lose everything if you get that wrong, right? Mysterious deaths of UFO researchers stretch back decades as chilling pattern emerges. Yeah, they've been killing different people for years. Remember all those holistic doctors that got killed? Like about 5 years ago when COVID was busting out? Remember now all of a sudden all these holistic doctors are like, hey, you can make your own hydroxychloroquine if you know what you're doing. And then all of a sudden people started getting killed, right? Because they didn't want you to know how to make hydroxychloroquine. Right? What's chloroquine? What's quinine? Right? Quinine. That's what people used to take, which is in tonic water, right? If you have a gin and tonic, it's not just water. It's not regular water they're putting in the gin. It's tonic water. It's a different type of water. It's a carbonated water that also has quinine in it. But you got to be careful with quinine. I'm not telling you don't go start downing whole big things of tonic water, right? You don't want to you can take too much quinine, so you need to be careful. You're better off trying to get a dose of hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin if that's what you're looking to do, right? Which there are sites you can get those on now. They've been killing UFO people for years. There was guys in the 50s that were fucking around with anti-gravitic stuff that got killed. I remember that. There's been people literally since the 50s who were messing around saying, hey, look, I can make this sphere go anti-gravitic if I want by applying electrical current and magnets and stuff, right? They've already known how to do it. It's the same thing with maglev trains. What's maglev? Magnetic levitation. It's how they made the super fast trains. They realized the train doesn't have to run on wheels on a track anymore. It's going to be suspended between two magnets, right, in a track that's laid out different. It's like a third rail track, right? And then it's sort of suspended in between those two rails is where the train runs, which is able to have there's less friction. I can go faster, right? Friction is what's holding me back. Without friction, I can go much, much faster. There's no friction in space, right? That's why you can go so fast. If I start going real fast in space, I'll keep going that speed. I won't slow down because there's nothing to stop me. There's no friction. There's no oxygen. There's no atmosphere. Illegal El Salvadorian migrant stabs 2 women to death, including mom of 2 working at Wendy's. So there's, I don't know how many stories I've seen where it's an illegal alien kills somebody in the United States. How many people have died in that circumstance over the last, 6 years? Hundreds, I'd say. Those are hundreds and hundreds of people, if not thousands, that should still be alive, still be having their lives, still be working, still be enjoying their lives with their children and families that are dead because of somebody's immigration policies, the Democratic Party's immigration policies. U.S. Senate candidate arrested for Trump threats. Yeah, this guy was literally threatening, saying, the president, and you're running for office? I don't understand. What are you doing? Iran attacks cargo ship in Strait of Hormuz. So obviously the strait's not open. It's not obviously we don't know who's controlling it. But this is about oil, right? This is about weakening China because most of their oil comes through this area. And weakening Russia in a sense too, right? We want to hurt those two people. Those are our biggest economic competitors. This is about world hegemony. This is about control of the next 50 to 100 years of the world, right? Unless, and then I hear people saying, well, no, actually what Trump is doing, is he's releasing the UFO stuff now to get ahead of these people because they were going to do Bluebeam. Well, you could have done that 8 years ago. You could have released this. Why now? And you're still not doing the right thing. You're showing us grainy, mostly old footage. I saw somebody's comment on the New York Post saying, how come I can never get a really clear 4K or above, version of one of these aliens, like right up close that we could see it and it looks real and it seems real. Or a craft like that. You say everything that you're seeing about this is grainy, old, looks like something that could have been thrown together with some cheap, graphics like 15, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look convincing. Like I said, you need to see the president with an actual alien on the White House lawn, talking to it, conversing with it, having a conversation, having live streamers and people all over, 10 different influencers live streaming it live that day with those newspapers in their hand, today's newspaper in their hand, proving it's real. Right? You can't green screen that in if it's that morning and that morning's post is in the president's hand. So you know it's that day. Understand? This is all grainy bullshit. Iran makes outlandish new demands to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and gives Trump a deadline. That was 5 days ago. They keep going back and forth. Then Trump says it's open. Then Trump is trying to actually control the strait, right? Because what was happening, they're trying to make a toll. They want to make every ship pay millions of dollars to them, which is what I think Iran is doing. Do all these ships have to pay a toll to go through the Strait of Hormuz? That's a lot of money. Somebody was saying it's $8 million a ship or something. I don't see how they could spend that much. That's a huge amount of money. Or is that just for oil, or is that every ship? We don't know. Ex-FBI Director James Comey surrenders to the feds on charges he threatened to kill Trump. Why did it take so long to get this guy indicted and then arrested? And is he going to get arrested for any of the stuff he did in the past, or is that all going to be gone? Because we looked into Comey pretty deep. He was the one that helped HSBC get out of trouble. He's the one that was basically, it looks like assisting HSBC to who was laundering drug cartel money, right? A lot of these banks are going to be found out to be laundering drug cartel cash. DOJ launches investigation into Portland Antifa assault on Katie Davenport. In response to the incident, the DOJ Rapid Response account on X acknowledged the report and wrote, "Investigation has been launched." Yeah, that's obvious. But these guys are all masked up. I haven't seen any major busts of any high-level Antifa people the whole time Trump's been in office. And even in his first term, he never touched Antifa, in fact, that we saw. There were no major arrests of Antifa. And they just seem to be able to be around in almost any state that they're needed in, and they show up mostly in a lot of blue states. Especially, it seems like they're especially powerful in places like Oregon, California, Washington State, New York State somewhat, and other surrounding tri-state area. Although not as big as they are. I think really their power base seems to be Oregon, Portland, to me. Investigate Portland PD for not breaking up this Antifa cell that has been at this location for weeks and months, right? We've heard about this location where people have been calling the police and 311 or their local 311, which is supposed to be to help with services, right, in different cities. Like, for example, there's a restaurant near me that decided, hey, we're on Cinco de Mayo, we're going to do a big thing. We're going to put extra seating on the sidewalk that we're not allowed to do. We're going to put tables even in the street that we're not allowed to do, right? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to take some pictures. You're illegally making noise on a Saturday or whatever. You're doing construction, cutting up pieces of wood to put these tables out, and doing stuff like that. That's illegal. You're not allowed to block the sidewalk in New York if you're a business owner with tables like that. That's illegal. You don't own the sidewalk. You're not allowed to have. You may be allowed to have sidewalk dining at a certain portion of the sidewalk that, or in the street, right, that the city allows, but not on the sidewalk usually. It's in the street. Or if the sidewalk can accommodate it, but some sidewalks are slimmer than others, and this sidewalk couldn't accommodate it. And the person, I got him in trouble, and I did get him a ticket, but it's only a $50 ticket for blocking the sidewalk. That's nothing. To a big restaurant, $50 is like one ticket, right? One guy came in, ordered a few drinks, made $50. Okay, big deal. Guy probably cleared a couple of G that night in drinks and food, if not more. So $50 to him doesn't matter. It's just the same thing. They don't do anything about it, the city, right? They just let these guys keep attacking this facility and they don't arrest anybody and keep them in jail, so there's no consequence. I saw Barney Frank is dying. He had a message for the Democrats, and they won't like it. I didn't realize Barney Frank's in his death is in hospice dying right now. I was never a fan of Barney Frank anyway, but even he's telling the Democrats, you're going down the wrong path. Ex-JP Morgan banker spotted in New York City street fashion vid before bizarre sex harassment claims as his dad addresses the scandalous suit. Well, this guy doubled down and he's saying even more. There more allegations. I just don't buy it. Sorry. And like I said, you don't look like Brad Pitt to me, so... is this woman going to like risk her entire career for this idiot? I don't think so. Hey, I could be wrong. Right? It's happened before. We've heard of some crazy office stuff. I mean, I used to have a female boss that was a little bit strange that way. I ended up getting fired because it turned out that at one of the jobs I had, I ended up working in a place where there was like 3 men and about, I don't know, 20-something women. So... suffice it to say, like, I've, had women, like, sort of being, treating me different, in that instance, right? I've had, like, women grabbing, like, doing stuff, touching and stuff like that, too, back in that day. That happened. And you just thought of it as a flirt, like, okay, it's no big deal. Right? I mean, if you're 20 years old and some older woman is, like, giving you attention, yeah, okay. Most 20-year-old guys are okay with that. You're the new young pretty thing? Okay, yeah, sure. You can't do that anymore, right? That doesn't happen the same way anymore. But it does also happen to men sometimes. Anyway, the boss was having an affair with one of the other 2 guys that was in the office, and I happened to run into them outside the office one day, and she saw me that I saw them, and so I got fired. Unfortunately. But it was okay because I didn't really like that job anyways. And then what do we hear about Area 51? It was hit with 17 earthquakes in a single day. So something's going on at Area 51. Why hasn't Trump gone in there yet? If you're talking about aliens, the rumor is that there's aliens down there. So why don't you go find out if there are? Or were you told not to go to any of the dumps? You've been told, obviously, not to go and acknowledge it, right? Or it actually doesn't exist. Right, I had said there's no crack needles in New York. Right? I meant heroin needles. Usually most people who smoke crack, they smoke it, right? You can't inject crack, I don't think. You can inject liquid cocaine. There is a liquid cocaine. I'm not giving you advice, right, obviously, but I had made a mistake saying there's crack needles all over the street. There's no crack needles. There's heroin needles and, other shit. You could step on, though, right? You don't want to walk around New York barefoot. It's not a good idea. I wouldn't even walk around New York with, like, sandals on. Your feet will get all disgustingly dirty if you walk around the whole... Just go walk around New York with flip-flops on for a whole day. See how dirty your feet get. Cole Allen's bullet definitively hit the Secret Service agent at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. U.S. Attorney Pirro. Yeah, he got hit, but I heard it hit his phone or something. It's definitely his bullet he hit at that Secret Service agent. He had every intention to kill him and anyone who got in his way on his way to killing the president. Right, so he's running up he waits, right, till they're breaking down the metal detector. And then the dog almost finds him, but he's in a room where he's literally about 20 feet from about 6 or 7 cops, and some of them are like FBI cops, and there's like a mixture, right? And that room wasn't secure, and that was part of the reason why he was allowed to stage up in there, right? Whereas that's where he puts the long rifle together, the shotgun, I mean. Why wouldn't you take a sawed-off shotgun in that instance, right? Why would you take something with you that you have to go in another room and set it up first? That just doesn't make any logical sense. That's a stupid thing to try to do, right? Because it makes it easier for you to get caught. It's one extra step that you have to do where something could go wrong, right? That's why you know that whole thing was staged, as far as I feel. Post Malone, Barry Manilow cancel concerts. A lot of these stars are canceling their whole world tours. They're not doing it. Why is that? Is something going to happen this year? Or are they just all getting sick at the same time? I wrote, many concerts being canceled. Is there a connection? We don't know. Trump says U.S. will take control of Cuba almost immediately. Cuba's got problems. We'll finish one first. I like to finish a job. Okay, so it looks like he's talking now he's going to take over Cuba. Which I'm hearing rumors that gas is $10 a gallon down there, when most people don't even have a car down there. If they do, they're remaking old cars, right? They don't even have car dealerships down there. They're living like 50, 60, 70 years in the past. Down there, it's still the 1950s, 60s economy. Official Trump coin price is down to $2.32 as of the other day, so it's almost worthless, right? When that thing came out, what was it, $13? Something like that? It was much, much higher. It's lost 75% of its value or more, right? You think Trump still has a huge position in that? I doubt it. Think his sons are holding that, or are they holding Bitcoin and other coins? Tether and all that shit that they want you to think is worth something, right? But you're still seeing that they can only affect the silver price so much, and then it keeps bouncing right back up, right? Why? Because the price overseas is probably closer to $100 an ounce or more for silver. It's being manipulated here. They haven't even addressed, Trump has never addressed anything going on with the COMEX market here. He hasn't addressed the fact that there's something wrong with the silver market. He hasn't addressed the fact that they don't have enough silver to cover all the COMEX silver contracts. Rudy Giuliani was in critical condition. He's now out of a coma. He had pneumonia. So it looked like he might have been ready to check out. He still may be ready to check out. We're not sure yet, right? They're taking, a lot of these players are all just being taken away now, right? As they just try to cover up the whole thing. And yeah, we're not going to get too deep into it, right? The Epstein files, no one's even talking about anymore. Is anybody still deep digging the Epstein files that have been released? Have they looked through every single file? Have you looked through every single picture? Because that's not everything, right? There's millions of other files that never got released, right? We don't know why that is. Cole Allen was removed from suicide watch because why make an accused assassin uncomfortable? Did you hear the judge actually apologize to this guy for like the conditions in the jail that he was being held in or something? Are you kidding me? You're apologizing to this guy? Chuck this guy in the belly of the tombs for about 2 months. See how he reacts, right? That's what they call the place where they hold people in New York where you're awaiting trial, the tombs. Used to hang people in the tombs. Back in the day. They used to take you over what's called the Bridge of Sighs from the jail to the courthouse right next to it, right? So they could get you right to the court, take you right back and hang you real quick. They don't do that anymore. That was a long time ago. Taxpayer-funded Texas water park announces Muslim-only day featuring modest dress and halal slaughtered meat. Hey, you can get your freshly slaughtered halal meat. Get your fresh shawarma right outside the park, right in the park. Just don't wear a bikini or have your shirt off if you're a male, because you won't be allowed in. Oh, and if you're any other religious group, you're not allowed. No Jews, no Christians, no Buddhists, no Sikhs. Nobody. No Greek Orthodox. No, you're not allowed here. Only Muslims. And all of a sudden, there was a lot of pushback. What's going on in Texas? It seems like they're trying to flood Texas with Muslims and Indian people. Why is that? What are they trying to do? Well, they want to flood it with Muslims so it goes blue. Right? They're trying to make Texas go blue. And they're getting close to doing it. Gray-haired woman in Make America Kind Again t-shirt filmed delightedly beating Donald Trump piñata to a pulp with a metal bar. Where does all that rage coming from, right? It's coming from propaganda night and day, right? From people watching the news all day, and then they watch Jimmy Fallon for a while, and they get really upset after years and months of watching all that, right? Let's watch just the rage that this woman has beating this pinata to death as if it's Trump. Good job, he's telling her. Keep beating it, right? The people are cheering her on. Look at this. I mean, she's really hitting this thing so bad that the guy doesn't even want to let her hit it anymore, right? And people come over and are stomping on it, right? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you watch that every day, it's sort of like what the Nazis did over time, how they demonized, people like the Jews and the Romani and other groups that they found undesirable in their culture. Right? The Jews were what, 3% of their population? Not even 3% of the population. The Romani even less. Yet they demonized these groups of people and said that they're the problem. How did they do that? Well, over years of many years before. It's not like Hitler showed up in 1938 and just took over. It took him many years to take over and his party to gain power inside the German society, right? It wasn't like that his party was the big party. No, it took many years and a lot of killings of other groups, right? They stormed and killed certain groups of people to knock them out of power. My point is that it took many years of propagandistic tools to change the perception of a whole country and make them believe whatever it is you wanted to make, that this guy Hitler was going to be the one that was going to fix it all, right? He's going to bring us back from defeat after World War I. Where does all this rage come from? It comes from agitation, propaganda, and propagandistic measures that were being pushed onto the public from the second you wake up to the second you go to bed, right? Because, I mean, most people used to be, you'd watch some Johnny Carson or something like late night talk show and you go to sleep right around 11, 12 o'clock, whatever. That's most people, right? Most people don't stay up past midnight if you got a 9-to-5 job. I mean, shit. Got to wake up early, right? If you got a 9-to-5 job and it takes you 40 minutes or more to get to work, you got to get up early, dude. You got to get up 7:30ish. You got to be on the train at 8:30, whatever, at 8 to get to the job by 9, whatever it is, right? So, yeah, man, it's not just like you wake up and roll out of bed, and if you're lucky enough to be able to do that in your job, great. But most people have got to wake up, get ready, get dressed, take a shower, right? If you're a guy, you got to shave and take a shower, get ready, got your shirt pressed, got your suit all ready to go. It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. It's not just like you walk into the office and at 9 and you're ready. No, it's hours of prep before you get there. New York City ICE protest descends into chaos as police arrest Nigerian national. So this guy was a Nigerian national. He weaponized a vehicle, tried to strike agents, but this guy also was wanted by Interpol, I believe, and they made all these people just showed up out of the woodwork to defend this guy, who's a criminal, who's supposed to be deported. Trump's plan to confront Iran privately bewilders oil titans as gas prices skyrocket. That was 4 days ago. Southern Poverty Law Center indictment shows partisan activists were running the FBI domestic terror program. Yeah, there's a huge problem. The problem within the FBI has not still been fixed, it seems like to me. You heard Bongino saying, well, I'm scared for my life. Well, didn't you get rid of the people who were in there? I guess not. Why didn't you just fire a bunch of them? Don't you know who to fire by now? Haven't you been able to find out who the bad seeds are? And if you haven't, why not? You've had plenty of time to find out. You've had plenty of time to work with other agents who can give you that information and would love to give it to you. Why are you not clearing it out faster? What about the 7th floor or whatever these specialized agencies were, these people who were inside Twitter and all these groups of FBI agents? Did you find out who all of them were? What about the Fort and all these groups that we found out were doing secretive, things with inside companies, right? Like Twitter and probably like Facebook. I don't think the FBI's been cleared out. You're still doing FISA stuff, right? You just renewed FISA. Opinion piece from New York Post. Mayor Mamdani's new scam, charging New York City taxpayers to hire his renter mobs. I mean, this guy's showing up at some of the protests, right? Which is like, you're not supposed to do that as a mayor at all. New York City hospital mob was defending an illegal alien with alleged violent drug past. Yeah, this guy's a wanted criminal. So you're defending a wanted criminal from Nigeria who's not supposed to be in your country. That's what these people are doing. Secret Service says individual shot near White House triggering lockdown. So Trump was giving a speech and then there was another person near the White House got shot. They're trying to make the perception, or either it is happening, or that there's this movement to kill Trump. Right? A whole bunch of people want him dead. Is that why they're rushing now to build this bunker right underneath the White House, which is, we'll be so much safer once we build this, whatever the thing is under the White House. I'm now convinced that whatever it is they're building, this ballroom, is to hide something much worse. I don't think it's something that's supposed to protect Trump. It's something evil, is my guess. Muslim-only event at taxpayer-funded Texas water park gets a major splashback. Somebody wrote in, should we expect a Christians-only day? Right? Should we expect a Jewish-only day where all the food is kosher? That all the food is slaughtered the same way? Because I don't know if you're aware, but the way that halal and the Jewish, it's the same way they slaughter the food the same. Right? It's kosher, halal, it's the same way, basically. They slit the animal's throat, it's hung upside down, and it bleeds out. That's how they do it. Supposed to be the most humane way. I mean, I don't think it's that humane. If I slit your throat, are you still alive for a while, right? Well, as you bleed out, you're still alive, right? You don't instantly die. It used to be they had this machine, it was like a spike right into put this, like a bolt right into the animal's head and it would die instantly, right? It's like a bolt gun that they'd have a guy shooting each animal in the head with all day long until they realize that's not the most economical way to kill an animal, right? How does the most economic way to kill something? I don't know. There's different ways you have to religiously kill something now for it to be called kosher or halal, right? That's different from the way that the animal is slaughtered in like a regular slaughterhouse, right? Then you used to have people talking about, well, what's a more humane way to kill an animal? You don't think these animals know they're being slaughtered, that they're in a slaughterhouse even before they get in there? You don't think that they have a sense of smell? That they could smell the fear of other animals? You don't think that they can sense the fear of other animals and hear the cries of their own kind? Sure they can. So this thought that, we're being so much more humane, we're leading the cows around in a way where they don't know they're being led to the slaughter. They fucking know. They know before they ever get in the building. Trust me. They know. And the point of that is that you're eating meat that is filled with adrenalized, right, blood. As the animal is killed, it knows it's going to die. It's adrenalized, right? And you're eating that every time you eat meat. It doesn't matter how it's slaughtered. Is there going to be a Christians-only day? Can I have a Jewish-only day? Can we have a Buddha-only day at the water park? No, it's not. It doesn't work like that. If you want a Buddha-only water park, go back to your country where everyone's Buddhist and make a water park. We don't do that crap over here in the United States. Everybody can go to the water park. And you don't get to tell me what I can wear at the water park as long as I got a bathing suit on. You don't tell me when to put my shirt on or off. You don't tell me if my wife could wear a bikini or not to the freaking water park. Unless that's the water park's rules, which it usually isn't, right? You don't get to do a Muslim-only event because you don't like being around people that are not like you, right? Why would you do that, right? You're coming to a country where you're not the dominant force. You're coming to a country where the Muslim religion, in fact, is an outlier, right? Most people are not Muslim here. And you're trying to impart your religious ideology and you only want to hang around with your own people, that's not being inclusive, is it? No. You want to be only with your own kind. So why would that make us want you here in this country? When we're the United States of America, we have all kinds of different people here. No one group is allowed to say, hey, we want to go to the water park today. We don't want any black people in the water park. I don't like it. Well, too bad. Then don't go to the fucking water park. Or go make your own water park on your land where you can go enjoy it all day and you could be the only one in your little water park. If you have enough money, go do that. But you can't say, hey, we want to make a city that's only filled with white people. We want to make a city that's only filled with Muslims or Jews or Zoroastrians or whatever the religion is. It doesn't work like that here. If you want that, go back to your own country where everyone's the same religion. And make your water park there. You won't have to see anybody who's not Muslim. Or less, right? Flurry of social media posts from ICE watchdogs fueled violent protests outside New York City Hospital. Yeah, they have these social media groups now that can, like, within 15 minutes have a group of people show up in some area, which I don't know how they get to do. Do any of these people work? Yeah, I'm just hanging around. At a moment's notice, I can just drop everything and be at, 48th Street and 9th Avenue or whatever in within 20 minutes. What the fuck are you doing? Don't you have anything going on? No, I'm not at work. Overwhelming number of voters back key Trump policies, including deportation of criminals and girls' sport rules. Well, that's two things I agree with, but most of the other stuff that he's doing, I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, where's my medical bed and, like, where's my free energy? Those should have been the first two things I would have done. Hey guys, we got free energy. Guess what? What's going to happen to the stock market if you do that? Well, big oil's down the toilet, right? So that's going to tank. Every oil concern is going to go to zero. All those pension funds are invested in mutual funds that are highly invested in these companies like oil, right? Like Chevron, Texaco, all these big, huge. There's no little oil companies really, right? They're all have consolidated to the point where there's 4 or 5 huge oil companies control all the oil in the world. Right? I don't know if it's the overwhelm. I mean, where's my medical bed? Where's, those two things would have fundamentally changed the world right away. Right? And then there's the pundits who are saying, well, you can't do that, right? We have to slowly go into this new world. Well, we're not getting there. Where's the new quantum banking system? Remember that? Where's that? Where's free energy? Where's my med bed? People are dying every day. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to meet with the Pope. Pope Leo. Iran submits new peace plan to U.S. Trump says he'll review it. That was 4 days ago. Ex-Florida congressman convicted for secretly lobbying for Venezuela. Yeah, that's what Jayapal's doing. What are you doing? You're not allowed. Nobody told you to go to talk to Venezuela on the United States behalf. You're not bargaining on behalf of the United States. The president is the only one that can give you that option to do it. Especially being a Democrat. Your party's out of power right now. Nobody's going to be telling her to go talk to anybody. Especially not Trump. So she might be in trouble for doing that. Especially if she made some promises to a foreign nation that we're not going to honor those promises. Pentagon reaches deals with 8 AI companies. So they're going full AI. It's already happening. And, if a data center is going up now in Utah that's using more energy than the entire rest of the state combined, I think that's a problem. And when the people in that state show up to a public hearing and are shunned and are not listened to and are told that are told that you're not allowed to speak, that you're not allowed to protest against it, because it looks like to me from the, if you look at, I think it's Kevin Murphy, one of the guys on that show, right, where the people, come and they talk about their business idea, and then the sharks, right, the shark guy. He's one of those shark guys on that show where they either invest in the company or they don't, right? Well, he's one of the guys that's invested in this data center, and and the people in Utah are upset because they already have a pollution issue in Utah with air quality, that and they don't need anything else like this over there that's going to be using up resources that they already don't have. It's not like that state has a ton of water, right? And so people are pissed because they went to this public hearing to be heard, and they weren't allowed to speak, some of them, to talk about how dangerous this data center is and how much energy it's going to be using. And what's the end game of it is what, right? Why do they need all this data? I couldn't understand what they were trying to do with it. It took me a long time to figure it out, and I was watching another video, and then it made sense. They need to create the new matrix. This one's dying, right? They need to create a new matrix because the one that they created is dying. And the reason it's dying is because the Earth is passing through energy fields in space now that are disrupting that holographic matrix that's been created over us. And so if there is a fake matrix of energy that's a holographic sort of image that's being beamed over us by something like the moon, I'm assuming, and we're heading now into parts of the universe where the energy is disrupting that holographic matrix, well, at some point that holographic matrix won't exist, or you'll be able to see that it's not real. Just like in the movie where I showed you, right? Which movie was it? Was it The Last Hunger Games or one of those, right? Where they show you like the matrix opens up and then there's people on the other side, and then everyone's like, oh shit, now we get it. This was never real in the fucking first place. There's people on the other side of this fucking thing. Is it going to be something like that, or is it just going to be like one day you wake up and it's like, whoa, okay, obviously something changed, right? Because there's a lot of people even now coming around saying, hey man, I wake up and like I feel like the Earth is different. There's something different, and I feel that too in a big way here in New York. Like I walk around some days in New York and it feels like a lot of the people are just not here anymore. It's like there's way less people, and like, okay, maybe I'm not in Times Square and that's why it appears that way, but even in the neighborhoods that I used to be in, when I walk around sometimes, yeah, I see a lot of people, but then other times it's like, wow, like where is everybody, man? Like, are all these people real? And that's the other thing. It's like you're starting to realize that all the people that you see are not real. That's why I used to, like I told you, I had this incident years ago, right, where a homeless man was coming at me and he was like agitated and angry. He was this big guy, and I got a little bit scared, right? And I put my hand out like, no, man. And I don't know what happened, but that guy froze in place when I did that. Like I hit him with something, some kind of energy that either I gave out or I don't know, but this guy froze, like I mean froze in his tracks. Like he wasn't deanimated for like a minute. And I just walked away, and then when I looked back up the block, like he started to move again, but he was, I don't know what, as if like he was an NPC and you just shut off his power or something, you know. I don't know what happened that night, but it was something that I never forgot, because I said to myself after that not everybody you see is actually what you're seeing. There's something else going on here, and that's from living in New York my whole life, seeing hundreds and hundreds of insane people that you just thought were just batshit crazy at the time, and you never could figure out, well, why are these people all so fucked up? I mean, are they just on drugs? Is it this? Is it that? And you never could figure it out, but it's not what you think it is. Some of these people, in fact, are not fucked up on drugs. They're not crazy. There's something else. Judge apologizes to Trump White House correspondent dinner alleged shooter after he complained about the mediocre jail conditions. What do you want, man? Filet mignon as your dinner? You want like 800 thread sheet count? What do you want, man? You want a massage before bed? You want your pillow, your turn down service? What the fuck? I mean, it's jail, dude. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be dirty and disgusting, so you don't want to go back, right? That's why they make it uncomfortable in there. They don't want to make it too fucking nice, or else you won't, go to a jail, go check out a jail in Sweden or Norway and see, and tell me it's not so much better than ours. Right? Their jails are nowhere like ours. It's almost like a country club experience over there, right? Yeah, I got full services. I'm watching TV in my cell and shit, whatever, right? I got all kinds of food, programs I could take, educational stuff. Oh, you can do some education in jail here. You can get your GED or a degree while you're in jail. People have done it. ICE nabs murderers, pedophiles, drug traffickers, and latest roundup. Topping the list on Monday was Farhan Ahmed of Pakistan, who was previously convicted of first-degree manslaughter with intent to cause serious physical injury. Well, most times if you commit manslaughter, that means you killed somebody. So yeah, of course it's with intent to cause injury. It's I killed somebody. Well, wouldn't that be battery? And it's just, they changed the terms around a lot, right? Used to be you couldn't hang out on the street corners in the city. They'd catch you for, loitering. They'd say, you were loitering. You can't just stand still. Really? Why not? I can't stand on a street corner? Well, you can, but if there's 30 of you, you can't. Why not? Because then I'm in a gang. I'm in a group. I'm in a horde of people, right? You're blocking the sidewalk. People can't move. Women with strollers and people in wheelchairs can't get by you. You're loitering on the corner causing a disturbance, right? It's the same thing really, like as if you look at what a street cart is doing. If I'm on a street cart, a sidewalk food cart, I'm loitering, aren't I? Yeah, you're loitering in the same spot all day and you're polluting. And nobody's doing anything about it. Right? The police say, well, you can come to the police and say that he's a nuisance, but they're not doing anything about it. Most of the cops, they're not giving these guys tickets every day. Radical students hold Cornell president hostage in his car after Israel debate clash. Yeah, he ran over some kid's foot because the kid was not letting his car move out. They were trying to actually kidnap this guy or stop him from leaving. This is a professor in the university. It used to be that people that did stuff like this, you'd be instantly removed from the school. And you wouldn't be allowed to come back. Right? You just harassed a fucking teacher on the school grounds and you almost I mean, what if that was a female and she got scared, right? I mean, wouldn't it be scary if 4 or 5 dudes are coming at you? You're trying to leave the school campus and these people are screaming in your face, trying to bar your path and not let you leave. Why is that being allowed to happen? That should not happen on any college campus anywhere, period. Teachers should be respected at all times. Everybody should be. Nobody should have to take that. Other students should be respected. Remember what they did to some Jewish students on these campuses? They actually were in their faces, making them so they can't walk, making them scared. You shouldn't do that to anybody, period. What if somebody started doing that to Muslim students on campus? There'd be an outrage, right? You'd have all these groups outside screaming that the head of the university should be removed right away. But that didn't happen in Colombia. Not right away. You allowed outside agitators onto your campus at some of these colleges on purpose, right? Did you see what happened to Jordan Peterson? He can't even speak anymore, it appears. He's taken Klonopin for so many years that when he tried to cycle off thinking, oh yeah, it'll be a rough detox, and people are realizing, man, I'm taking these hardcore drugs for a very long time and I'm not realizing how much damage it's doing to me, how much it's fundamentally changing my mental state, right? Klonopin is a hardcore drug. It's super powerful, man. That's why when I was, I've been to several shrinks over the years. It's not like I never went to see a shrink when I was having horrible panic attacks that, like I said, were lasting sometimes over 1 hour long. I mean, I never heard many people going through that and living, right? That's mostly when people check out, because if I'm going through that kind of shit and it's happening every other day, what is my quality of life like? How can I even hack that? You got to be an extremely, extremely strong, mentally tough person to even get through it. And most people can't. And I'm not saying I'm not much stronger. I'm just a little crazy already. And so I really knew that over it took years of self-contemplation and understanding and reading and trying to understand what was happening to me before I could come to the conclusion that I came to. And that was And, you know, if you think about Wilcock, and he knew, he said he was threatened several times by these people. So then why would you, well then, is it a surprise that he's dead now? Maybe not. Or is he just removed, made to look like he's dead to enrage everybody and get you off the real case, which is, we're looking into what these Epstein stuff is. All the crimes that the president seems to be involved in it, right? All those photos of him with hanging out with Ghislaine and these people, and you think he's not involved with them? But why are there 10 years of photos saying you were? And what, you were just hanging out at parties? You weren't doing any of the other dirt? Okay, it's hard to believe that, right? Because all the other people that were involved with this guy were doing some real dirt with him, it looks like, right? So Jordan Peterson he can't even, you know, he's having serious side effects. And then you see Kamala Harris's like adopted daughter, right? Her white daughter, with the husband that she married, his daughter has been on SSI inhibitors for a long time too, and she's starting to think, well, maybe I should get off this shit. And then you start to realize it's like with any drug. If you're on a hardcore psychotropic drugs like this for years, and then you just stop taking them one day, well, yeah, it's going to be harsh. I don't know how you'd even get off some of that stuff, because I don't know what it makes you feel like. I just have talked to a lot of my friends who are on them. I've never talked to anyone on Klonopin, but it's a super strong drug. I can only imagine what the detox off that would be. Maybe smoke a J or something, man. Get yourself on something crutch right now just to get off the worst part of it, and then go straight, right? But there's something you could do to alleviate some of that, I'm sure. But what does it do to the brain? This is a guy who's known for his mind, right? And this stuff is doing a lot of damage and stuff to the brain, right? Benzo withdrawal, benzos, benzodiazepines, right? Benzos. Zapine, I think it's called, right? It's a hardcore. What's a benzodiazepine? It's a class of what? Psychoactive. It's a psychoactive drug. They're known as benzos, right? It's a nervous symptom depressant. So it's making your nervous system, it's shutting you down, right? What is this, the equator of, would be like a lewd, like quaaludes, right? Similar. What's a quaalude? Similar. It's what they used to give you that wasn't this. Quaaludes, right? Methaqualone. Methaqualone is a sedative hypnotic medication. What is it? It's a hypnotic medication. Widely prescribed during the mid-20th century, it was marketed under various brand names including Quaaludes, Sopor. This is what a lot of people were taking before this stuff. But that's also real bad for you. Why? It tells you right here why. It's a sedative hypnotic medication. What does that mean? Well, I can hypnotize you if you're on this shit. You're more apt to be easier to hypnotize you. Well, if I have a large portion of my population on Quaaludes, that's good for me if I'm trying to control their thought process, because they're in a semi-hypnotic state all the time. That's why Quaaludes feel so good. People like taking them. Although you can also put somebody who doesn't know, drug people with this stuff, right? 67% of voters say New York's cost of living is out of control. It's definitely been out of control. The rent is way too high. The rent to the amount of money you're making salary-wise is usually not enough. Unless you're making a lot of money in your job, you have a very high-paying job. Most people don't. But if you want to live in Manhattan proper now, you got to be making at least $100,000, I think, close to it, just to live in Manhattan. Just to rent something for like $3,000 a month, right? You got to make 40 times the rent. That's $120,000 you got to make to rent a $3,000 apartment. That's just the rules here. It's not the rules in every state. Some states they want you to make 3 times the. Depends what they want, right? Mamdani's done absolutely nothing. All he's done, it looks like, is try to raise taxes on certain groups to close the budget gap that he has, which he'll never be able to close, even with help from Albany, which he's getting, in the tune of I think $2 billion from Albany. That's still not going to be enough. Ex-JP Morgan banker Chirayu Rana files wild new claims against the executive now, including lurid threesome invitation, days after going viral. So either this guy's telling the truth or he's not. I don't know. He won't give up. Is it going to be he's telling the truth? I don't see why. It doesn't seem like he is. State Farm launches all-out war on California in blistering statement after bombshell wildfire expose. Yeah, it turns out that it wasn't just, right. Was it someone setting the fires or was it other stuff, right? I think you were setting them mostly with the dew weapon. Because you can't melt a car down next to some trees. It doesn't make sense, right? If a fire is burning hot enough to melt metal, which most fires can't, a natural wildfire doesn't have the capability to do that. Why? Well, it doesn't burn hot enough, a natural wildfire. Even if it was an inferno and it's in the center of it, right? It's still not going to be at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what you need to melt aluminum and metal and steel and glass and stuff, right? And then the trees like 20 feet away from that are not touched or scorched, which doesn't make sense, because if a fire was burning hot enough to melt steel, it would incinerate everything that was combustible in a huge area. Right? It should have, and it's not the case. Just the house is gone, and it's not just part of the house is gone. The whole house is gone to the studs every time, and with nothing being able to be taken out of there. And then they have the other thing, which is now they say, well, hey, it's toxic on top of it. Sorry, we're going to have to clean it up for you. And the wait time on that we're looking at is like maybe 7 to 8 months. But meantime, you're going to have to keep paying that mortgage every month on time. Make sure you do that, right? So friends, I'm going to take this break. I'm a little thirsty. I need a little bit of some more coffee or something. I'm going to stretch my legs out. I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. There's two thoughts of what's going on here from these different pundits that I'm watching. Some are saying that Trump's doing everything right. He's gonna continue to save us. Everything's going to plan. But you're not seeing any of these big things that you're supposed to have seen, right? Where's all the big indictments? If there was hundreds of thousands of indictments waiting, you should have seen arrests happening. They would never end. There would be so many people that need to be arrested, right? And you're not seeing that. And you're starting to see that stop where they're saying, oh yeah, we all, they were all sent to Gitmo already, and you didn't see it. With that lie is not being swallowed by the public, and that they're stopping that lie, those pundits now, because they realize it's not being, right? All these pundits who were over here with the Flynn people and all the Nino Rodriguez's and all these other fake pundits, they're in trouble now, right? Because all the stuff they've been talking about for years is not materializing, and the public is starting to ask questions and say, how come you've been talking about this as if you know what's going to happen ahead of time the whole time, and now it doesn't look like what you're saying is going to happen? Why is that? Although some of the things that they said look like it might happen, like, oh, are they saving Israel for last? Maybe, but what about Ukraine? What about all this other shit? What about North Korea? You're not talking about dealing with them? How we deal with other countries? There's not just one rogue. What about all those stand countries and shit? What's going on over there? You don't even know. No clue. Right? So this is a bunch of bullshit. And then they come out and say, oh, we're going to release all the info with the alien stuff now. You're going to see it all. Okay, well, it better be way more convincing than what you put out so far, because this doesn't look like anything to me at all. Where's the real videotapes of a real alien that we could see that's clear, where you're talking to the fucking thing, and it's talking back, and you can see that it's real? Where's all the anti-gravitic craft that we've reverse engineered? Why aren't you showing us what's in Area 51 and 52? Why is it so secretive? Why aren't you showing us any of the bases that are under the ground? And why haven't we seen not one saved child, not one thing proving that any of that is real, right? I just saw a video that apparently was showing one of these ports where they're moving around the big shipping containers, and they're saying that they're hearing screams from inside some of these shipping containers as they're being moved up and down, and that some of the people at the ports are refusing to work until, I don't know if that's true. I'm seeing video that looks like it's showing that, but again, I can't prove it's true, right? How come we haven't seen one group of kids ever being saved from any shipping container, or kids saved from a dump at all this whole time, right? Not once. Why is that? So friends, I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. I'm going to go get this coffee real quick, and I'll be right back in just one moment. In the meantime, you can do some push-ups, sit-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, I'm back. Thanks, friends. I appreciate that break. I needed it really badly. So, State Farm's in crisis mode as Watchdog threatens biggest ever penalty over wildfires. Because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. You're supposed to pay out in a very effective, in a quick manner, and not make it so that people have to go out of their way to get access to you and to get some monies, right? Instead, what you tried to do is say, oh, well, this was an act of God type incident. We don't cover that. And try to screw over the people that you were supposed to be protecting in this situation, right? People get insurance so that they can have insurance against different disasters that may or may not happen, like a flood or a fire. Maybe there's a mudslide, right? That happens a lot in parts of California. They get a lot of rain. State Farm in these places they don't do the right thing sometimes, right? They want to sell you an insurance policy, and then when it comes time to pay out, they try to find any way out of paying you. Like, I was in a car accident that was not my fault years ago. Somebody was backing out onto a country road from their house, and they backed out onto a road where the speed limit's 55 without looking, and because there was a bend in the road, the guy says he didn't see me. I almost got killed because, I just barely avoided hitting this guy head on at like 55 miles an hour coming around a turn because he decided to back out of his driveway in a very dangerous part of the road. His insurance company, when I tried to, file my claim, tried to make it out that it was my fault, which obviously it wasn't. If I'm driving already on the road and I have the right of way and your client is backing out of his driveway and he has Coke bottle lenses on as his glasses, you don't back out onto a road like that. You normally would want to be not backing out, and if you are backing out, you better make damn sure you got room and you're clear, right? And it's not a bend in the road. You could kill somebody, including yourself. That was one of those things where it's like, okay, I just missed checking out. If I was just a half a millisecond slower in my process, in my hitting the brake and getting out of the way, I would have been dead. I was lucky I had really fast reflexes when I was younger, and from playing a lot of sports, that saved my life. And the funniest part about it was my sister was in the car with me visiting. I was going to school at the time upstate, and she says, like 5 minutes before, or 3 or 4 minutes before the accident, hey, why don't you have your seatbelt on? Because I didn't have it on. Almost like she either foresaw it happening or she actually manifested it. One of the two. Mark Zuckerberg's trying to wiggle out of testifying in person at a slew of social media trials. So it's coming, forcing him to testify, but it's all coming back on him, right? That your site actually damaged a lot of people. Why? Because it allows predators to, unfortunately, access to children. Sites like Facebook, when they first came out, were actually... Remember when Facebook first came out, you had to be in school to go on Facebook. You had to be enrolled in a college to be able to use Facebook. It wasn't allowed for adults to use, or kids, right? It was just for, young adults, right? Just in college. When they opened it up to everybody was when the problem really started, right? Force Zuckerberg, or whatever that thing is, pretending to be Zuckerberg, to testify. More and more of these people are starting to look really like aliens and like lizards to me, because just look at Ryan Seacrest, somebody like that who's on the Wheel of Fortune now. Like, go look at his face real close. Go look at his ears real close. I've seen lots of human people's ears, that his ears don't look human. His face doesn't look human anymore. It looks more like a lizard. And people are saying, well, is it because the adrenochrome's drying up? Is it because there's less loosh for these people? I was watching a lot of videos, and what some of the people in the spiritual, who follow more of the spiritual parts of humanity are saying is that what's happening is a lot of the light workers are people who are like characterized as, say, you're a highly empathic person, you could be a sensitive, you could be all the way up to maybe there's people here who are really are starseeds some people say that beings are incarnated here at this time to help Earth and to help Earth ascend out of the third dimension into the fourth and fifth dimensions. There's all these people talking about that. Is there going to be a solar flash, right? Is there going to be something, or is it going to be the natural energy change of beings going through on a planet that's going through this part of space right now? We don't know, but there's people saying our DNA is changing. We're turning from carbon-based life form to a crystalline-based form, which I think is true because I can feel my body changing. I'm very in tune with my body. I always have been growing up, and I've always been. I look at pictures of myself in my 30s, and I'm much more muscular and wider shouldered than now. I mean, I've been bodybuilding for 15 years. That's a part of it, right? But you can enhance that change. I'm seeing a lot of 40, 50, 60-year-old men with bodies who look like they had the body of a 30-year-old. So something's happening where certain people aren't aging at the same speed as other people who are maybe an NPC or other, I don't know, right? There's all kinds of different, I think, classifications, unfortunately, of people walking around on this earth right now. Some from people with a soul to people that don't have a soul, to either clones or automatons of some kind, to people wearing masks. I think we have all of the above, because you've seen that the silicone masks are everywhere now, and they're so realistic, it's insane. You can put one of these on and within 5 minutes be some other person completely and go out and do whatever, and how are they going to ever find you? How many of these crazy shooters are wearing a mask? Nobody ever thought to ask that question, right? Is that what's going on here? And there are really actually other shooters doing it, like military or others who are doing it, and you never know who the real person is. Right? Because who were the first big shooters that... It was Columbine, remember? That was the first time it really happened that way. Where people were like, wow, I don't remember like 2 kids getting all these firearms and going into the school and just going full Rambo, right? Nobody had seen that before, really. Not like that. I think that was like 1999, 2000. So everything was changing, right? They were putting in this new thing where that was where the chaos loop is really beginning, right? Because once 2001 went down, it was a whole fucking new world, right? There was all of a sudden you had the Homeland Security and remember they had that the threat level, it was orange. They had your whole world turned upside down, dude. Patriot Act came in. You never saw it fucking coming. They hit you like on the side of your head with a sledgehammer with all that shit. And there was nothing you could do about it. All of a sudden everybody was like, well, we gotta be safe, right? Okay, you can listen in on all my phone calls and collect every fucking email I ever sent. Fine. Yeah, whatever, man. As long as there's not another 9/11. And I remember telling people, hey, but I heard these pops going off. I heard the demo going off, man. They demolitioned that building. That building didn't come down normally. And I remember everybody coming down on me, man. Everybody saying I was crazy. No, what are you talking about, dude? For years, everyone told me that. I was ostracized by everybody I knew. And I was right, though. But we didn't know it was also the dustification weapon. We didn't know till later that it was actually holograms, that there never were planes. Or that if there were, it was something that looked like a plane, but it really wasn't, right? That hit those buildings. Right? My point is, it took a really, really long time, like almost like a generation before people started to actually come out and say, yeah, this thing didn't come down that way, right? It took a while, and we still haven't gotten the full 9/11 report. We still don't know exactly what happened, everything that happened. But we sure as hell know that the Pentagon wasn't struck by a plane, because even advanced pilots, right, who'd flown commercial airlines for 20, 30 years said, I don't think I could have done that maneuver. The way this guy flew into there, the way when they look back at how the plane was allegedly, the maneuvers it made to hit the Pentagon. There's experienced pilots, Navy pilots, right? Experienced guys who said, I don't see how you could do it. You'd have to be flying, treetop level over cities and shit, right? Like over areas that you can't do it in, right? It's just, those planes are not, it's like you're flying a brick. It's not like you're flying a highly maneuverable aircraft. No, 747, 767 is not highly maneuverable. It's like flying a school bus in the sky. Admiral U.S. sinks 6 Iranian boats, 2 ships past Strait of Hormuz. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. The Texas water park that's supported with taxpayer funds hosts Muslim-only day. Apparently there's that many Muslims in Texas now. How many Muslims are there in Texas? Texas Muslim population. Why do so many Muslims move to Texas? Somebody wrote on Reddit. Texas has the largest Muslim population by raw numbers of any U.S. state. I thought that was New York, with estimates ranging from approximately 313,000 to 422,000 residents, representing roughly 1.1 to 1.6.8% of the state's total population. The highest data this is from 2010. So wait a minute. And 2010 said 421,000. So wait a minute. That's 16 years old data. So that could have doubled. Easy. And it probably has, because they're pushing Muslims into Texas. And they're pushing Indian men with H-1B visas into Texas. That is fact. Be careful right now. There's a crazy witch hunt over a Majid in Texas, and now all of the RW ecosystem is spreading hate towards Muslims there. I don't know what the RW ecosystem is. Right-wing ecosystem, right. Okay, I get it. So they're trying to make you not talk about it, right? Because here's Muslim population by state, 2026. Texas, it says, has 313,000. New York, I think, has 800. So New York actually has way more Muslims than Texas. Double. In Pennsylvania, there's 150. What about Jersey? 300, another 321,000. So just in the tri-state area, let's see, what's from Connecticut, 43,000. New York, another 7. So there's about 1 million Muslims in the tri-state area right now. If you think about it, there's only 8 million people in New York, so in the tri-state, they got 1 million Muslims now. That's a lot. Seems like a lot to me. California's got 500,000. So there's a lot of Muslim people coming into this country. And that's been happening since Obama in 2008. If it's a water park that's supported with taxpayer funds, then you shouldn't be allowed to, even if you rent the whole park out for the day. I see how people were saying, well, if they rent the park out for the day, why can't they do a Muslim-only day? I don't know. Is it allowed? Can I do a white-only day? Or a Christian-only day? Or what if it was a Jews-only day? Would you be all right with that? Or would you go attack it? Like some of your people who are Muslim do. They attack Jewish events, right? They attack Jews. Would you go protest at the water park that day? I'm assuming you would. I'm assuming somebody would, because they wouldn't like that it was only one group allowed. What if it was really hot that day and other people wanted to go to the water park? Well, you can't. We rented it out to a Muslim group, and it's a Muslim-only day now in this park for today. You can't come in. Some people don't like that. Iran launches another strike against the UAE, so it looks like they're hitting the UAE the hardest. I watched Ari at Home's music stream. Ari at Home Cinco IRL stream was pretty good, dude. That was one of his, some really good. It's just crazy how many people can just step up to the mic and hit like 64 bars. Not 16, not 32, 64 and more. That's hard, dude. I'd be lucky to get 16. I mean, I got a little rhyme book, but I can't memorize 16. I don't got my whole 16 memorized. I can give you like 8 bars. Maybe. Maybe 16. I'm getting close. Right? There's a lot of people that have, like, say, some stuff memorized, but then if you're going off on, he's going off on 20-minute tangents with some of these crews that have a bunch of MCs in it, and they're going off on like 20, 30-minute tangents, so that's a lot of bars. It's so impressive, and singers too. Miss Israel says she randomly bumped into New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani's wife in a cafe, and it all went horribly wrong. Because she seemed to be nice to the woman until the woman said, "I'm Miss Israel, by the way. I don't know if you're aware." And as soon as she said she's Miss Israel, Miss Mamdani's demeanor changed towards her, and she didn't want to have anything to do with her and didn't want to interact with her anymore. And I wrote, that's because Mamdani and his wife are bigots. It's that simple. They're bigots. They don't like certain groups of people. Everyone's a bigot in some ways. There's some group of people you don't like for some reason. Doesn't mean you hate all groups of people. It doesn't mean you hate everybody from that group. But maybe something happened to you in your past where you had a bad interaction with someone from a certain group, and you try not to let it affect you, but it does, right? That's happened. I've had violence. I said this to my friend who's African American. I said, most of the violence that's been done to me has been done to me by black people. Do I hate all black people? No. But that informs the way I look at black people, unfortunately, because I've had violence done to me by black people. I'm more aware when I'm outside somewhere if there's black youth around me than any other color of people. I'm not as nervous if it's a bunch of white kids around me as it's a bunch of black kids. That's just fact. Because I'm a product of my environment, just like you. I was raised in a city where there's a lot of different ethnic groups, and some of those ethnic groups do violence onto each other groups, right? Not just their own, but others. And so my friend couldn't understand that, right? In a sense, like, because I said you would think I would hate all black people and I wouldn't even be your fucking friend, right? But yet I am. So you're puzzled by that, aren't you? Because you can't understand it. Because if a bunch of white people beat the fucking shit out of you a bunch of different times in your life, you might hate all whiteys forever. There's certain black people, they hate white people's guts. Voraciously hate them. Right? You can find them online. Voraciously hate them, right? Same with Asians that hate some black people, and black people hate Asians. You don't know why, that's the way it is. It's just the way it's been. Doesn't mean that they're a bigot, right? It just means that they've had a bad experience with a certain group. Does that mean that Mamdani hates all Jews? I don't think so, but I don't think he likes Jews either, right? Because he doesn't like what Israel's doing, and so he decides that he's going to let that inform his decision on every other Jewish person in the world by what Israel does. As if every other Jewish person living in the world who doesn't live in Israel is somehow responsible for it, which is obviously ridiculous if you think about it, right? It's like blaming certain Muslims for what, say, ISIS did. And you're a Muslim guy living in New Jersey. Well, why would I blame you for what ISIS is doing in this other country? That has nothing to do with you, or does it? Or does it, right? Most times it doesn't, but it's easy to see how you could think that it would if the guy in the news every day is saying, hey, these Muslims, they're all, down with ISIS, right? Which obviously isn't the truth. It goes for any group, right? You could have the same experience. So you can't let your life experience inform how you treat other people from a group, although many people do fall into that, unfortunately, because we all have some inherent bigotry inside of us, unfortunately. It's just because of how most of us are raised. You're a product of your environment. Unless you're raised in a very specific type of way. I was never raised to hate any group of people. I was always raised to think of everybody as equal, right? That's how I was brought up. I was brought up to respect women and that you respected your elders no matter what race they happen to be, right? That's how I was brought up. Some other people who were brought up a different way, right? Opinion piece. Luxurious Gaza cafes poke quite the hole in the genocide narrative. They got cafes open up in Gaza? They got internet cafe? What are they doing over there? These people are all on the internet talking freely, it looks like to me. They're all women. They don't look like they're being told what to say. They're in a coffee place, it looks like. It says Al Amal Coffee. And it looks like a coffee / internet bar of some type that's set up here with internet access. Horrors. The latest atrocity in Gaza, reports Al Jazeera, is a wave of luxurious cafes and restaurants that have sprung up. So there must be food, right? You can't open a restaurant if there's no food. You got to have food, right? And you have to have a steady delivery of food. And you have to have infrastructure to have a cafe, and so there's something going on. That's right, Israel haters have yet another new definition of genocide, wherein fancy restaurants built with expensive materials, carefully painted. Let's see, is there any other photos of these things? Just this place? Where's the other places? I don't see any pictures of it. Or was it there all along? The Gaza foodie scene amply documented on many Instagram feeds. Alright, I'll have to look on my Instagram later and see if I could find any Gaza restaurants popped up here. Because they're trying to make it look like the whole place is just... I thought it was all gone. This is an opinion piece, right? Here's a Palestinian student studying inside a cafe in Khan Yunis on April 6, 2026. So that was 3 days ago. I mean, this doesn't look that luxurious. It looks like a bunch of crap was just hung around in some, little stall. You can see that it's just covered with, fake carpeting or fake, what is that, like AstroTurf. I'm sure it's not that luxurious. Where's everybody living, though? I don't get it. Mystery is Italian model who was among first to accuse Jeffrey Epstein of sexual misconduct disappears in New York. A lot of people disappear in New York. You think it wouldn't be that easy to, but it is. There's too many people here. And she's somehow connected to Epstein, and she disappears. That makes me sound suspicious. Model who said she fought Jeffrey Epstein off with a sex toy found safe after family reported her missing. They just found her, that's right. She's okay. That came out right after, like a day later, I think. A former model and victim of Jeffrey Epstein who recounted fighting off the perv with a sex toy has been found after reports that she went missing in New York. Elizabeth Ferretto, 50, sparked alarm after she suddenly stopped contacting her family on April 22nd, Italian outlet Mattino de Padova reported. The Italian-born fashionista, who has been in New York since 2001, was one of the first women to accuse pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein of sexual abuse. At the start of April, she flew from the U.S. to Veneto in northeastern Italy to visit her parents and brother before returning to New York later the same month. Until April 22nd, she had stayed in daily contact. Alright, so maybe she just went off radar for a minute. They got scared. She's alright. Inside New York City's upperly mobile Gen Z agitator groups and how they target ICE. So there's these Gen Z kids. They just have these networks set up now. Every time somebody gets arrested, they show up there and they go crazy. But look at who you're defending. Why would you protect a known felon? Why would you protect somebody who's the authorities are trying to remove, who's done crimes? Are you going to go talk to that person, the next victim's family member, if they kill or rape somebody? Are you going to be the one that's there saying, sorry, we got it wrong? I don't think so. Epstein had dirt on only one person, but didn't have ties to CAA or Mossad, and wasn't a pedophile, Dershowitz claims. That doesn't ring true. Sorry, my friend. Sorry, Dershowitz. You're not my friend, but that doesn't ring true. That rings false to me. And if he wasn't Mossad, then why did he have multiple passports? Who gave him those passports? I believe he had an Israeli passport. Why does he have another name? Why was Benjamin Netanyahu called Ben Netay before he was called Benjamin Netanyahu? Why does Epstein have another... at least 2 other passports that we know of, as well as a passport in another name, right? And I think it was the Israeli passport where he had the other name. And what was the dirt that he had on? Just, were you saying who? Just Trump? That's obviously not true because of the voluminous amount of videotapes that he had stored at both his mansion and other places, right, in New York, and on Epstein Island. If he had nothing on anyone else, he wouldn't need to have that many cameras all over Epstein Island, even in the bedrooms and the houses and stuff, right? You wouldn't do that and have photos, have cameras in the bathrooms even and everywhere, right? I remember one of the girls said that when she was brought into one of Epstein's houses, she was in the bathroom and there was like an intercom came on and they said, and Ghislaine said, "I see you're in the bathroom, what are you doing?" Like something like that. So that's when she realized they could even see you in the bathroom. I doubt it was just one person. You wouldn't have that many voluminous amount of video if it was just one person. You wouldn't be inviting Bill Clinton and these big stars on your jet all the time if it was just one person. U.S.-Iran getting closer to agreeing on deal to end the war after 67 days. I'm surprised they didn't let it end it after 66. New York could ban common ingredient found in pizza and bagels over health concerns. What was it? Sodium benzoate or something? What was it? What are they? They're even putting stuff in your bagel that gets you sick. The State Assembly on April 21st passed the Food Safety and Chemical Disclosure Act, which targets potassium bromate. That's what it was. Potassium bromate, B-R-O-M-A-T-E, is a chemical often used in flour to help dough rise higher. No wonder I'm getting sick all the freaking time. They're putting all kinds of crap even into bread products that shouldn't be in there. You can't even make a piece of bread, the simplest thing, right? What is bread, like three ingredients? Water, flour, yeast, or whatever, right? I mean, it's like the simplest thing. You don't need all that other shit. All you need is like 3 or 4 ingredients. You don't need potassium bromate. You don't need potassium at all in any form to make a bagel or to make a loaf of bread. Nope, don't need it. You just need like 3 or 4 ingredients. That's it. Right? Bread is pretty simple. But these people have made bread into something that's not even good for you anymore. That normally would be easily digestible. And you hear people, they say, "Hey, I can't eat bread in the United States," and then they go to like Italy and they go, "Wow, I could eat bread again," and it didn't make me all bloated and feel disgusting. Yeah, because it doesn't have things like potassium bromate and other crap in it. The actual yeast they're using is the right yeast. It's natural. It's not. They're not stripping everything of its, that's what they do in the United States. They basically take something that's semi-good for you or good for you and they strip it of all nutritional value and stack it full of chemicals. And then you wonder why all these people are dying so young and getting all fat and bloated. And remember when the guy did Super Size Me, you kind of got the idea, right, after that, back in the day, right? Hey, if I eat McDonald's every day, I'm going to be sick and fat. Why is that? Well, it's filled with salt and sugar and a lot of chemical crap. And the meat they're using isn't even real meat, I'm assuming, because it doesn't rot like meat does. All right, if you take a normal piece of meat, let's say you kill a deer, and you take that meat and you chuck it into you take a little piece of the meat, a fillet, whatever, how big a size, and you chuck it in your garden for a while. And just let it lay there and see what happens to it, right? All of a sudden, worms and all kinds of stuff are going to show up. Right? It's going to start to decontaminate, eat away at it, and eventually there won't be much left. Like, when you bury like your dog or something, and then if you were to dig it back up, there wouldn't be anything left except the cartilage and the bone, right? Usually everything gets eaten away by maggots and worms and all kinds of things that are in the soil, or if it's left out, if a creature dies in the wild, all kinds of animals will come feed on it, like wolves and different creatures, right? Vultures, and they clean it all up. Nature has a way of cleaning that shit up quick, right? Not with this McDonald's stuff. You leave that stuff out and no worms show up. It doesn't rot away. And, people have found like burgers in their car like 20 years later that's been in some old abandoned car, and the burger looks exactly the same. There's no mold on the bread. So the bread is not even made right. They're making a bun with some horrible chemicals in it, and then they give you this fake meat that who knows what your stomach can do to break that up. We don't even know, right? So hopefully they'll take that out of. You don't need this stuff to make a good slice of pizza. To make a good dough for pizza, you don't need that many ingredients either, right? You don't need potassium bromate. We should be banning all these other chemicals like glyphosate and number 2 red dye and all this shit too, but we're still using a lot of these things. And Trump's been in office for what, 6 years, 4 years plus almost 1 full year, almost now. We're still using a lot of these chemicals. Kim Kardashian makes difficult decision in law journey after multiple failed bar exam attempts. You're not smart enough to pass the test or be a lawyer. That's why you stopped. You're too stupid. Sorry, but that's the truth. You got to be pretty smart to pass the bar, dude. It's hard. That's why not a lot of people can do it. There's too many lawyers in the world anyway. Didn't Shakespeare say that, or make a bad joke about lawyers, right? There's too many lawyers anyway. We don't need more lawyers. We need to get rid of the Phoenician maritime admiralty law system. Right? That's what we need to get rid of. We need to be back to the law of the land. I said you got to get rid of the Statue of Liberty, right? And nobody was listening. They didn't do it. It's still there. And that's basically showing that they're still under Satan's control, right? Which is why I guess it was hard for me to leave this place, because this is the place. New York is one of the places that needs the energy the most, that needs the most help. It's the most dark. It's one of the darkest places on earth, as far as I'm concerned. And I've been around, but I haven't been all over the world. But there's a lot of dark energy here. What do they call it? It's it's a ley line convergence point, right? That's why they put Cleopatra's Needle in Central Park. That's why they put in Washington, D.C. along the 33rd, the 33rd, whatever, parallel or whatever it's called, that node is another ley line, right? That's why they put Washington Monument right in the spot that it's in, right? These things need to be taken down and removed. There's no evidence that Trump is doing that, unfortunately. Hateful anti-Israel mob descends on historic New York City synagogue, clashes with cops. It's getting really ugly, where these groups are being paid to go attack different synagogues and things. I don't feel like these are attacks or like a movement from mostly of people in New York. There's also some really bad stuff going on with what they're apparently trying to do is either auction or sell off parts of Gaza here, which I don't know how they're doing that, or if they were doing it. There was a rumor that was happening. I have to look into it more. But there's another more disturbing thing that's happening here in New York, with some of these Hasidic Jews are doing. It doesn't appear that it's other Jewish groups. It's mostly Hasidic Jews that are doing it, which is that they're trying to do these scams on certain African Americans who own homes here to try to take their homes away. It's really bad. And I'm sure they're not just doing it to African Americans. They're doing it to anybody that they think is vulnerable, where they can do these deed scams, right? Where they try to assume the deed or take the deed away from these people or get them to sign some papers over. This guy shows up at a Hasidic Jewish guy shows up at an African American guy's house claiming he has papers that he can come into your domicile to do some kind of inspection. That's highly illegal. If anybody shows up to your doorstep of any religion with paperwork claiming that they have assumed the deed to your property, I would call the police right away. That's first off. And do not let them into your home. Secondly, they cannot and should not have access to your house under any circumstance. And do not sign any papers to anybody unless you consult a lawyer first, obviously, right? You must do your due diligence. And, the elderly or some group of people that are the easiest to do this to, right? You have somebody who's older, they might not know what the law is. You show up sounding like you have some kind of documentation threatening them. And I have to look into it more. I just saw one instance of it. Is it something that's going on pervasively? More so, yeah. I mean, we have known it's not just one group of people doing it to another. I just want to make that point. It's anybody is doing it to anybody that they can do it, right? Is this just one instance where it looks that where there's a Hasidic Jew doing it? That was one instance of it. Is there multiple? It appears there has been. So we have to keep a close eye on that too, because that's something I had not been aware of that was going on by any group of people towards one group only. Right. It just seems like it had been starting to happen because people were realizing that through public records they can look up a lot of information about properties. That's the other problem with the information age. And if your property happens to be that you own happens to be you're behind on your mortgage, then you can have these vultures come in who try to assume and buy other people's debt. Right. That's what they do, and they can do it. I believe this was an instance where the person outright owned the property, though, and that's different, right? And you have somebody trying to come in and try to lie to you and strong-arm you and tell you that something's happening that's not happening. New York City judge ponders hellish squatters' right to liberty as tenants live in fear. What does it take? This guy's been in this building, and his gay lover, I think, died, and then he's allegedly in the building. It's like this whole nightmare situation. There's another one like that where the guy's walking around with a freaking axe in the hallway. He's a transvestite. And they can't get this guy out of the building. It's insane. I mean, you'd think it'd be easy, right? Hey, there's a guy outside my house with a freaking meat cleaver. He's tapping on my door at 2 o'clock in the morning, half naked with a meat cleaver. Can you come police this dude up? Nope. We're going to let him stay there. Sorry. Really? Well, I'm not scared to open my freaking door and go to work the next day. What if this guy's going to hack me up in the staircase? You're going to help, you're going to secure, you're going to make me, you're going to secure me? I don't think so. Get this guy the hell out of the building already. Obama is selling ugly merch shaped like his presidential center as architects reveal he pushed for Death Star design. Why is there almost no windows in this thing? It looks like it's something from the Death Star. It looks like an alien building, right? It doesn't even look human. It's ugly. It's a stain on the whole neighborhood. You bought up this huge amount of public park space to do this. Why are there no windows in this thing almost? Gaza flotilla activists ripped for provocative dance while demanding release of accused sex predator. Yeah, did you see these girls dancing around provocatively with the Palestinian flag around their hips? With like their stomach showing, and go dance around in Gaza like that. See how fast you get raped. By your own people, too. See how fast. I'd say you last maybe 10 minutes, if that, before you'd be grabbed by a couple of these guys and you know what. You want to see what they were wearing just to see what you say? I don't know. It seems provocative to me. That's what they're wearing. I don't know. You decide. It's not super provocative. I mean, she's not naked, right? She's wearing pants and her stomach is showing. And she's wearing like sort of like a bikini top, but it's not showing her breast in any way. It's just like I don't know what you call it. It's a crop top or something. It's like a belly shirt. It's like a half shirt, right? Just her chest's covered, her belly's showing. It's, but she's got the Palestinian flag and they both got keffiyehs on. And they're dancing with the flag, Nick Shirley went to Cuba. He almost didn't make it home. That was a brave thing to do, but I wouldn't do that again. There's people attacking the press right now. You can't go to another country and expect to have the same treatment as normal press is going to get. You're not going to be treated like normal press. Definitely don't go to Iran, please. They won't let your ass out. You'll be definitely hurt. But maybe the fact that this guy is just well enough known now that you can't just disappear him, right? It's going to cause an international incident if you do. And they know that. So they let him out, but they harassed him all along the way, right? They took most of his cameras away. They harassed his staff. That was brave, I wrote, but a big mistake. He could have got killed. His small fame was all that probably kept him alive. Yeah, that was probably it. If somebody like me was to go down there, I'd just be disappeared probably, and that would be the end of it. Okay, yeah, he has some family that'll ask some questions, but we will just say some hooker, somebody robbed him he was with a prostitute on drugs or whatever, and then he got robbed, right, and they killed him, whatever. There's a million excuses they could make that you disappear in Cuba, right? It's not like they have a very sophisticated, justice system or police force. Trump pauses Project Freedom less than 2 days after launch. You can't control the strait and ask for a fare. No one's going to pay you a fare there. What's looking like is we lost the Iran war. And the reason we lost the Iran war is because, like I said, you just punched somebody in the face and ran away. And hoped, and then say, oh, it's over. Oh, it's over now. Well, no, it's not over till I say it's over. If you start a fight with me. Right? There's certain people you start a fight with and they don't stop until it's over, right? Most people, that's how they are. You punch me in the face, what do you think? I'm just going to stop? No. There's type of people that go all the way. They take you all the way to the fucking end. Which usually means you're in the hospital or dead, right? Some people, depending on who you hurt and how bad their temper is. There's some people that are just ready to snap. I've seen people, we've had stories here in New York about some guy getting an argument over a parking spot. Some guy pulls a bat out and just beats him to death. Saying, geez, man, over a parking, you just beat this guy to death. You murdered somebody over a parking space. Really? Are you that angry, bro? Yeah, I am. Today I am. Right now I am. I'm having a fucking day. Right? And you don't know that guy's having a day and you say the wrong fucking thing at the wrong fucking time, you're dead. You're dead. Instant dead. Right? It happens every day in New York. So, the next time you have an argument over some dude with the parking spot, just give him the parking spot. Trust me, it's not worth it. Yeah, you got that spot, baby, and you cursed some guy out and he went off in a huff, but the other option is that guy pulls a baseball bat or a gun or a knife out and he kills you. Is it worth it? No. Over a parking space? No. Presiding judge of ex-First Lady's appeals trial found dead. Wow. That's in Korea, from the Korean First Lady's trial. There was something going on where, right, the ex-head of South Korea got arrested and thrown in jail for manipulating the elections, right, and stuff like that. Trump set to lift U.S. sanctions on Iran and free billions and unlock uranium enrichment in stunning Obama-style peace proposal. What's going on? That's not what you said you were going to do. What do you? I thought you said that you don't want them to have uranium enrichment anymore at all. Now you're freeing billions of their dollars back to them? Why would you do that? When you haven't even got rid of the current regime yet. Silver went up 6% on Thursday, I believe, or Wednesday, sorry. It was 78.16, but now it ended up at 82, 81. Where did silver go? It ended up at 81.13, up another $2 almost. So it went up, it was up at one point almost 10% in 2 days. It was a huge jump, right? You're starting to see silver go up and down like crazy. And gold is sort of just caught in this range, 46, 47 range, 45, high 4,500. And just got over 47 to 47.31 right now, but it's only up $30. It's not having those big $150 days like it was before. It wasn't running. Remember, gold at 54, right? Just a month or two ago. They took $40 off silver in a very short period of time, which was not normal, which was why they do that. Well, I think it was for two reasons. They wanted the stackers to sell, was one. They want the people stacking the most to sell, all of it, and so that they won't be able to get rich when it does go up to a higher price, which I think is still coming. I think there's a bottom they're going to put in that silver can't go below, and it's not going to be $80. Guaranteed that. It's going to be well over 100 or more bottom that it has to stay in. Why? Because it's so important and it's used in so many things. And until they could find something that conducts electricity better or that works better, it's going to be, and even when they do, it'll still be an important commodity that people will want to own. That is not paper wealth, right? It's storing your paper wealth. It's converting your paper wealth into another asset. That's all it is. It's just like palladium or copper, or it's just worth more, right? Personally, I think copper should be worth a lot more because it's really an amazing metal that we're not using till its fullest potential. Obviously, with our crops and things, we need to get back to electroculture. We need to have major farms hooking up massive copper arrays where, like, imagine like a huge like telephone pole with a huge copper pipe wrapped around it, right? Like huge arrays like that are going to start showing up that are going to, and then when the farmers realize, shit, I can electrify the earth, right? I can use Hugelkultur, which is I was just watching Hugelkultur, which is using wood, burying wood. It's an alternative. It's a literal mound bed or mound culture horticultural technique where a mound constructed from decaying wood debris and other compostable biomass is planted, right? So you make this, you make a hole about, I don't know, 4 feet deep, like a square, and you put a bunch of wood in there, right? And soil on top of that, and then you start to water that. That's going to start, as the wood underneath decomposes it's going to draw in a lot of worms. It's going to draw in creatures. The worm castings, of course, are highly sought after, right? They're good. The more worms you have in your soil, the more fertile your soil will be. So check out Hugelkultur, raised bed gardens, using layers, and this will actually water itself after a time. It will retain moisture. So this is a good thing to use in dry climates. It can be used in a wetter climate too. It doesn't matter. But the beds after a while will have their own biomass generation. You'll be able to use those beds all over and over because they'll be self watering in a sense, because they'll retain so much moisture from the biomass of the wood rotting underneath. And that process of the wood deteriorating creates its own electrical impulse and power, so that you can tie copper wire into that wood. I don't know if you would do it like, say, a big wood log, a thick wood log, and then you put copper wire around that and then bury all that, right, and tie that into your other main copper and zinc rods that you'd have on either side of your garden, and have this copper running through the soil. Forget about it. You're not going to have any problems. You're going to have a pest-free garden and a garden that requires minimal water. Check out Hugelkultur. 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 It's super, super cool. It's a great idea. It's Amish farming techniques again, or I don't know, maybe that's Dutch. Silver, $81. Howard Lutnick to testify to Oversight Committee on Epstein ties. I just saw, people going through his emails saying it looks like you were fairly tight with Epstein. And then why are you talking about the kids that are with you, that are coming along with you to the Epstein Island, that they're the ages of those children? Why would you go over that for? What does that matter? Yeah, I'm with my friend and his kids. What do you need to know every one of their ages for? Are you trying to abuse some of them? Because you know what happens with some of these elite groups, right? If one elite member wants your wife, and you're like not as elite as that guy is inside the Illuminati or whatever it is, they can have sex with your wife. You got to give your wife over or your kid to that person. That's what I've heard. We've also had some certain stars or people come out who are in that world and say, yeah, my dad or my uncle was like selling me to these people and bringing me around, right? That's what the girl that claimed infanticide against Trump was saying, that her uncle was pimping her out. And that her uncle allegedly pimped her out to Epstein and Donald Trump on a yacht. So Lutnick seems like he's closer with Epstein than he thinks, because he goes all the way out of his way to tell his captain of his vessel to go and find out where he is exactly, right? And then why were the cruise ships also, some of them coming to Epstein Island? You saw that some of the Disney cruises were saying, hey, there's a secret island. And then if you look closely at Nickelodeon's logo, there's a lot of people saying that Nickelodeon's logo looks a lot like Epstein Island. Nickelodeon logo. Is that Epstein Island? It kind of does look like it could be. And there's the little St. James. Is that true? Are these fuckers putting it right in your face? It's close enough that it could be. Right? Here's where the sort of the what is it, what do they call it, the house that he had on there that looks like it's some kind of I don't know, a house of worship of some sort, right? Is Nickelodeon's logo little St. James Island? Maybe. Panic in the Flynn CIA network. I shared a Mike Gill video you could check out. He's saying that the Gill network's panicking, and part of the Gill network is 10 and all those people. That's all Gill. I'm not Gill, sorry, Flynn. Gill is just locked up in a hotel somewhere. You know, he's having to live like he's in witness protection, this poor guy, for all this time. He still can't get anybody to go into the files that he's provided in the past to the government. They don't want to open those files up because it shows that allegedly people like Dick Anagost and others, the Anagost family, not only are they owning a lot of casinos, they own drug treatment centers. And if I'm illicitly moving drugs into the state and you don't know I'm doing it, and I also own drug treatment centers, aren't I in a sense creating a false narrative or a false set of circumstances that are going on where I'm giving business for my other business that I created, which is drug treatment, because I'm flooding the state with illegal drugs. And then I'm cleaning that money in my other legitimate businesses that I own, like casinos, etc., and health clubs like Planet Fitness. So there's a whole network here that needs to be exposed of how the fentanyl's moving across the country. It's not just coming from the outside, and it's not just Mexican and South American and Central American cartels that are doing it. It's cartels within the United States that are also doing it that are white. Right? That some of the people within your political networks are responsible for drugs trafficking and allowing such to go through their states, and as well as human trafficking. So check out Mike Gill's channel on Rumble. It's Mike Gill, and it's called Panic in the Flynn CIA Network is his most recent show. And see what you think about what he's talking about. Radical poll wants to limit nursing home residents to 2.8 ounces of beef a week. That's less than a Big Mac patty size. That's not enough beef for one person in a week. You could be eating, a lot of different things that are vegetable matter that have protein in them too, that have more protein than a burger, right? Like the moringa tree plant is one. Like the leaves of the moringa tree are 3 times more protein than broccoli. So think about that. If you're having some broccoli and some moringa leaves and some other things that are high in protein, you could get all the protein you need. You really don't need to eat meat necessarily. Some people just like to eat fish and chicken and meat for some reason. Maybe they hunt deer or whatever. They like the taste of venison. If you never tasted venison, it's much different taste than you normally think with meat, like a steak. It doesn't taste anything like a steak really to me. Much different. One of the 11 disappeared scientists claimed she was hit with Pentagon's top secret weapon after revealing UFO theory. So I've often felt sick being at this computer and had to walk away. I've had nosebleeds. I've been puking sessions. I've had all kinds of shit. I've had to go to the bathroom multiple times in a day, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, from being on this computer doing this show. I've gotten sick doing this show before, where I had to take breaks and pretend it's just a break, but I'm actually like physically ill, and or like feel like I'm going to throw up or have to go to the bathroom again. So there's stuff they can beam onto you for sure. I've felt it before. I've heard the different nodes, the different tones in my ears for years, and trying to figure out what that was. It's, they've done so much to. I can see why the suicide rate is so high if you're doing stuff like this to people, because I almost killed myself so many times I can't even tell you. I don't know how I didn't. I just, through the grace of God and prayer and just being an extremely tough, really, stubborn person, because I just realized to a point, like, you can only think about killing yourself so many times before it's just like redundant. It's like, okay, I get it. You don't like life so much, but the question is, why don't you like it, right? Is it something that's really coming from inside of you, or is it really something that you think you're thinking about, but it really is not you, right? That's what I realized. That there's people putting shit into your fucking head. And then you look into Voice to Skull and you realize, holy shit, they could been doing this since the 70s or earlier. Yeah. And that's my whole life, that's when I grew up, is in the 70s. So basically, like, hey, if you got grabbed into some government, program and used, and then they mind wiped you, how would you know you were in a government program? You'd have no idea, unless at some point in your life, later you had at some point in your life, some memory came through the mind wiping, or you have physical scars, right? It's one or both, right? That's really the only way most people figure out something. And then people started to realize, well, if I go to a hypnotist and I do regression therapy, I can go back and find out exactly what happened, which is sometimes extremely disturbing to the person when they do that. NYPD releases images of punks who vandalized Jewish sites, homes with Nazi graffiti. So there's just people doing this for, whatever reason. Stupid reasons usually. Right? It's agitation propaganda 101. We've studied this for years. We know what it is, right? They do it in different ways. Maybe the next time it'll be, a black kid beats up a white person, right? Or whatever. An older white person. Chinese companies blacklisted for forced labor saw a boon in New York City pension investments under Brad Lander. So, we're so corrupt in New York. I told you this a long time ago. They need to open up all the books and do forensic accounting of all this stuff and find out how much money was actually stolen and how long it was being done. I mean, you can go back 50 years and find graft in New York. You can go back 100 years and find it. You can go back 150 and find it. So, I don't know if we ever really got graft free at any point in our history in New York. We just seem to constantly be in the same boat. Woman left stressful teaching job to earn $100,000 a year as a professional cuddler. You might want to be a cuddler instead of doing your other job. Well, if you have an aversion to being close to other people, then you might not want to be a cuddler, right? Like, I wouldn't want to cuddle other men. That would be, like, odd. I guess I could cuddle women if they would feel all right with that. But then, again, you'd have to be careful how you're cuddling, right? Some people can get aroused by cuddling some men, right? Any human contact can get a man aroused almost. So you'd be surprised. So you got to be careful with who you're cuddling with, right? But if she can make that much money just being a cuddler, it shows how many lonely people there are who aren't being touched, who aren't having regular human contact. I mean, I don't have much human contact with anybody. I have this one female friend. We used to hang out, and I'd say, hey, can I just, like, touch you a little bit? Not in a creepy way, but would you mind if we, like, held hands for a minute? I know it sounds weird, but, like, I don't get to touch anybody, and it's, like, I need some human contact. And she would let me do it. She would understand, because I think, in a way, she was also starved for human contact. And it wasn't, like, creepy, it wasn't like, hey, can I squeeze your ass? Or, no. It was like, hey, can I just put my arm around you for a minute? Or can I give you a hug? Or just anything, right? It's sad how we've become so... some of us have become so alone in this world where we just don't even feel comfortable enough with our human interactions anymore to just even put hands on another person where we feel like we might be violating their space, right, instead. Violent attacks on Jewish Americans reach a record high in 2025. Well, yeah, and look at all the propaganda you're putting out there. Anti-Israel propaganda. It's making everybody hate Jews all over the world, but people need to understand that there's a huge Jewish diaspora in the world, and most of those people are not from Israel. In fact, most of those people have never been to Israel and never will go, who are Jewish. So that's odd, interesting in a way. Like, there's different groups of Jews all over the world with differing opinions on things. There's a lot of Jews all over the world that don't like Netanyahu at all, right, and think he's a bad guy. So you can't hate all of a group of people, like I said before, right? Even if, say, bad things happened, one group of people has hurt you in the past and it's always been that group, well, you still can't hate everybody from that group. It doesn't make any sense. Everybody's an individual, right? You have to treat everybody as such in this world. That's how I always have tried to do it. J.D. Vance calls to end SNAP benefits to 186,000 dead people. Lamborghini owners. If you're wealthy enough to afford a Lamborghini, then you're wealthy enough to not receive SNAP. Yeah, I thought there had to be you had to show that you were in need of SNAP, right? You had to show that you were living in a rent-controlled apartment, a rent-stabilized unit, that you were, looking for work, or that you had a certain amount of money, and that's it, right? You shouldn't be able to have a Lamborghini and then go, fill up your SNAP card and get all kinds of food for free. Texas man hit with federal charges for shooting at Secret Service agents near the White House. The DOJ has brought 3 federal charges against 45-year-old Michael Marks of Midland, Texas. Rep. Pramila Jayapal reveals she's been working with foreign countries to bring oil to Cuba in defiance of Trump's embargo. That's illegal, I'm pretty sure. I was in conversations with the ambassadors from Mexico and some other places, other countries in Latin America, trying to figure out how to get oil there. You're not tasked to do that. I don't think you have any reason to reach out to a foreign dignitary of any country right now. That could be construed as entreating with the enemy, especially if Cuba is considered our enemy right now. So if you're entreating with other countries to help an enemy of the United States, that can mean that you could be charged with being a traitor. NYPD captain transferred after viral rant bashing embarrassment Mamdani. Democrats, not my mayor. He really is an embarrassment. And if a lot of the cops don't support you, it's hard to be mayor, right? Because you need the support of the police department to be an effective mayor, to be effective on crime. Feds smash huge drug ring fueling MacArthur Park fentanyl trade as accused narco queen caught in desperate final act. Who's going to fill the void? Is anybody? Or are they going to make sure no one does? See, that's the problem. You have these huge fentanyl ring that's not even people in MacArthur Park, which is out in California, selling the drugs. It's all... You could have easily found out who was selling it, right? They have anti-narcotic squads just for this purpose who surveil these areas, find out who the dealers are, send in undercovers to make buys from them with money that's got certain serial numbers on it, and then they bust you, right? That's how they used to do it, and that was highly effective. Until they start changing the drug laws and letting people out with no bail over and over who are selling drugs in open-air drug markets. Right? That used to get you 5 to 10 years. Now it's like you're out on bail the next day, and there's like no charges, or you get some kind of drug treatment program and what's it called, parole. You don't even need parole. Or just no charges. You got to become much harder on the drug, right? If it was like the death penalty, if you got caught selling fentanyl, nobody would sell it. Like, look at how China deals with it, right? They have highly, highly hardcore... If you get caught with a bunch of fentanyl in China, they'll kill you. They'll put you right to death. No questions asked, no problem, no long trial. No bunch of long trials, and you don't even get to say, can I have another trial? No. One trial, and you sentenced to death quick, and that's it. Mamdani doubles down on supporting anti-Israel protesters outside of Upper East Side Synagogue. I wrote, mayors should be impartial, especially when others are terrorizing religious sites. He does nothing. He doesn't do anything to protect those sites. He doesn't protect schools. He allows protesters to get right up on top of schools. FBI raids Virginia office of Spanberger ally, state Senate President pro tem, and massive corruption probe. FBI agents were seen taking boxes out of the building. So in Virginia, there's two things, right? They were trying to also gerrymander the vote in a way so that they, would retain control, right? Same in Georgia. They got caught doing it. Violent teens clash with cops at New Jersey Carnival, prompting officials to cancel a beloved yearly event. Again, this is a group of mostly, it looked like black youth. Not to make it racial, but I have to because that's what I see. Every time there's one of these events where it's a bunch of young people going crazy, it's always black youth. And who's robbing all the stores and all the jewelry stores and stuff? Do you think it's gangs of white youths? No, it's mostly black youth. It's gangs of black youths that are doing it, right? Black kids. That's just a fact. I don't know why that is, but you can't pussyfoot around that stat anymore. You can't say, well, no, some of them are Hispanic. Yeah, sure, but the majority of them aren't, right? The majority of them are black, and that's just a fact. Jeffrey Epstein's barely legible alleged suicide note revealed. Time to say goodbye. Looked like the handwriting of like a 10-year-old to me. Doesn't look like much of a note. For a guy with a big ego, you'd think he'd have a much longer suicide note if he was actually going to go out, right? He'd have wrote something much more eloquent. That looked like a bunch of bullshit. Somebody just scribbled that up in some room somewhere. Did they even check the handwriting sample against any known samples of his handwriting? I don't know. It doesn't appear they did. DOJ's investigating woke Soros-backed Virginia DA over sweetheart deals given to illegal aliens. That's what Soros was doing the whole time, was getting all these people, bribing them and making sure that the judges were corrupt in all these states, so they'd let out a lot of these criminals over and over again. Right? Same in New York with Bragg. How did blue states get these people out of power if you're still using a tainted voting system? You can't. That's why I was criticizing Trump after his first term. He never got a new voting system put in. Why not? He had 4 years to do it, right? You couldn't get paper ballots put in 4 years. You couldn't have perfected a paper ballot system. That would have been easy. There's all kinds of different countries do it already. You can look at the most successful ones. The ones that put the dye, the invisible ink on your finger so you can't vote again. That's the best one, I think. Can't wash that off. It doesn't come off right away. Which means you can't vote again, period. You got ink on your finger. Everyone's going to see it, right? That's a good way to do it. Paper ballots only, right? But you got to watch the paper ballots really close. Paper ballots can be burned. They can be thrown away. They can be lost. They can be buried. They can be burned, like I said, right? And then they never existed. That's the problem with paper ballots. You have to have a bunch of security around them that can't be repudiated. You have to have multiple security people. You have to have a chain of custody for these ballots where they never lose, they're never out of the chain, right? And where are they kept? Where are they stored? We saw all kinds of break-ins after the 2020 elections, especially of places where ballots just disappeared, ballot centers where ballots were being kept were found broken into. But you never changed the voting system. You're still using the GEM system, like I said. It doesn't make any sense. You can't have safe elections with the GEM system in there, or with Dominion voting machines, or with CITL source code and CITL systems. It's all three things, right? Trump administration can keep 2020 election ballots seized from Georgia, Judge rules. So here we go, Georgia again. I mean, where you got Ruby Freeman and her daughter on film pumping the same ballots through 3 or 4 times, and they get away with that? And it's on videotape. If it's on videotape and you can get away with it, I mean, there's no real law anymore. Because if I caught you red-handed doing something, and it's on video for everybody to see it, and you still don't get found the person guilty, well, then justice really is blind, right? Kim Kardashian's excuse for missing the bar exam and her future plans. It's embarrassing when you take the same test over and over and you fail it. It's like, I know friends that, take certain tests and they can't pass it either. It's like for the real estate exam, I had a friend that it took him like 4 times to pass that test. I'm like, dude, it's not that hard, man. Why don't you just like study a little bit? I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not like you're taking the bar. The bar is a hard test, but you should be able to pass it if you've taken it that many times and gotten familiar with it. And either she has some kind of learning disability, maybe, or she's just not cut out to be a lawyer, maybe, right? Sometimes the universe sends you a subtle message like, hey, this isn't what you're supposed to be doing here in this lifetime. You're supposed to be doing something else. Like, for me doing this show, this isn't why I'm here. I was supposed to really be here. This is a side tangent. This is a side quest for me. It was something that I could do. It was something that I have a background in and as a communications major, and it's something that I thought would be helpful to just share information, just do that, right? And not make a profit like all these other people, and to differentiate myself in that way where you can look back on over 900 shows and there's not one time where I said, hey, buy me a coffee. Hey, send money over here. Hey, buy this t-shirt. Hey, I'm selling silver or gold, or I'm telling you where to go, or this. I might recommend a product from time to time, but that's only because I use that product and I don't get any money from recommending it, right? Like if I tell you I use the, what is that, machine, like the silver bullet machine for whatever, the juicer, right? Okay, great. I use it for years. I like it. They're not paying me to say that. It'd be nice to, but I don't do that. I've chosen not to make money from this. That's how I'm differentiating myself. And almost 99% of the other people are making a profit of some kind doing it. Opinion. MacArthur Park raids a direct strike on Mexico's vile cartel pipeline. The question is, why aren't you enforcing the law in some of these states, like California? Why is the cartel deeply ingrained? Because you have Newsom, who's a controlled asset, allowing it to happen, right? Texas Water Park was forced to ditch the Muslims-only day after Abbott threatens to pull funding. So this is a park that gets some public funds. And Abbott's like, hey, you know what? If you do this, then you're a private entity now that you're letting your park get rented out by groups, and then we're not going to give you any more public funds. You'll have to exist on your own. You're a private entity now. Excuse me, not funded by the government. You also can't tell men or women what to wear. If men want to have no shirt on in a water park, they can, right? It's not like he's naked. It's not like the women are walking around topless. No, the men have no shirt on. They're allowed. If women want to wear a bikini suit to a water park, they can. If you don't like that, then don't go. If you're offended by the way people in the United States dress at a water park or at the beach, then don't go there. And if you don't like it still, then go back to the country where you're from, where the Muslim religion rules, and you have Sharia law where women have to wear a burqa or a full bodysuit or whatever it is, and then you'll feel more comfortable maybe back in your home, right? But if you're going to come to another country that has different policies and differing belief systems than you have to be okay with that. You have to accept it, and if you can't accept it, then leave. Because we're not going to allow you to change our entire culture to fit your religious beliefs. It doesn't work like that here. That's why we're called the United States of America. This is a free country. It's supposed to be a country of free peoples, right? That have the freedom to practice any religion we want. I have a freedom of speech to say anything I want. Even if you find that speech repulsive, I still have a right to say it. That's why people come here. Because in some countries, what you say can get you actually killed. Female judge from hell sanctioned after she let 4 pedophiles off probation early and behaved very rudely in court. Why would you let a pedophile off early? You should make it long parole for a pedophile. Long period of parole. Where you watch very closely. Feds arrest 18 in MacArthur Park. That's triple confirmation. LA City Council votes unanimously to ban barbaric, uncivilized traffic stops. Council President Marquise Harris Dawson called armed responses to minor traffic violations barbaric and wholly uncivilized. It doesn't matter. If you do a traffic infraction, you should be stopped by the police. If you run a stop sign, if you go to a red light, you have to be stopped. What are you saying? You shouldn't pull people over who commit traffic violations now? Because they might be an African American or some other person that's smuggling drugs, and you don't want to what? Have them be searched illegally? I don't understand. You know how much drugs is interdicted by traffic stops that people make a mistake and then they find the drugs in the car? A lot. Because a lot of these people are stupid. They don't know how to drive right. They speed or they don't follow the proper rules. They can't read the signs, some of them. Silver was up $4.67 to $82.70 the other day. That's a lot. Almost hit $83. Going to 90, right? I mean, I'm a stacker. I wouldn't sell here. No. I'm waiting for the big payoff. I'm waiting for the multiple hundreds of dollars, if not $1,000 or more payoff. That's where I'm looking to. There's no way I'd sell at this point because I can see the manipulation still there, right? You can see that Shanghai has a different price still. There's still this silver arbitrage is still going on, and Trump's not even admitting it's happening, which makes me realize that Trump is not honest. He's not the one. He's being run by the Black Sun. This is the Dragon families now versus Black Sun versus... I don't see a person on the side of the real public good here, because the Dragon family sure as fuck aren't. I mean, Benjamin Fulford wants you to believe that the Dragon families have all this money from all this gold, that they're going to give a big part, all this money to the United States, and they're not going to ask anything for it, which is bullshit, right? Because if anybody gives you a whole bunch of money like that, they're going to want something. He's claiming that all they have to do is do a debt jubilee and get rid of Trump and just... We'll do the rest for you. We'll have a debt jubilee. We'll give you all this money. Your debt will be paid. And all you got to do is just bow to China now, right? I'm assuming. And China will be the one. And you'll just be a second world country connected to Canada over there. And yeah, we'll need you in the future. We're going to need your food and some stuff. But you're not going to be a major player in the world like you were. That's how they want the world to be. And they want China to get it all. But China's got a lot of internal problems. And if you go look at some videos that are coming out of China, where they're showing, like people at parks where you're like at a park where like there's literally no grass to lie on. There's so many people. Like they're just completely overcrowded in some of these cities. And not only are the cities overcrowded, they have so many factories they can't even breathe in some of these places. You got to walk around with a mask on every day. They've polluted some of their... Right, we got to get rid of these coal-burning factories. Have to all go away. We have to switch to the new energy. We should have already been there, right? We're getting to a point of pollution that is not going to be easy to get rid of if we don't stop it. And China's a big part of that problem. Prince Andrew was threatened by a balaclava-clad man carrying a weapon close to his new home in Sandringham while walking his dogs. Now he's asking for security. DOJ launches probe into Fairfax County attorney for allegedly giving preferential treatment to criminal illegal aliens. That's been going on all over the place. Nancy Mace named 6 House lawmakers allegedly involved in sex scandal cover-up. So I think that's going to break at some point. If the slush fund and who's actually, used it. City's first black female mayor announces resignation midterm. So the Charlotte, North Carolina mayor just called it quits, which is highly, highly suspicious. Why? Is there something coming out that's going to implicate you in something? Dem Attorney General gives Minnesota fraudster no jail plea deal. So one of the guys that got caught doing all that fraud in Minnesota, he got a huge plea deal, and he's not doing any jail time. And he stole millions. France sends aircraft carrier to strategic waterway. So France has sent one of their ships into the Straits of Hormuz. Not the Gays of Hormuz. They're defending the Straits of Hormuz. Just to be a little funny. DNI Gabbard spurs probe into evidence Congress Trump were misled on election security. Memos show the evidence continues to stack up that the U.S. intel community sought to downplay China's actions in 2020 as Trump sought re-election, perhaps at the cost of legal or ethical rules. CIA Director John Ratcliffe said there was a false impression that Russia sought to influence the election, but China did not. Yeah, remember the whole thing with the satellite? that we never found out that China somehow, what was that Italian company that some people thought that the an Italian military server may have been used to affect the election, right? That whole angle never really got investigated, but there were some people that were over there, some Americans were over there in Italy, right, at the time of the 2020 election that were suspects. And I remember we were looking into that angle into that for a while, and then like that story just kind of died away, and we never got proof. We never got any conclusive evidence like of what actually may have gone on. It was Leonardo, the company, right? Leonardo satellite used to change votes in 2020 election, something like that. Italian defense contractor Leonardo satellites used in U.S. election, October 3rd, 2024. So there was some, you couldn't find a lot of mainstream articles about it, right? There were articles like this from like Citizen Times and, the radio page, these like sites that, Here's one fact check Al Jazeera. Was Elon Musk's Starlink used to rig the U.S. election? Like stuff like this was coming out, right? They could have done that, right? Left-wing conspiracy theorists falsely claim Elon Musk's Starlink satellite stole the U.S. presidency. But there was another thing about this company, Leonardo, right, which is a military company, that maybe their satellite was used. Of course, you couldn't find a lot of mainstream press talking about that. More than a dozen Washington, D.C. cops suspended in fake crime stats scandal. So these guys were messing around with the crime stats, trying to make them lower than they actually were. So there's a fair bit of crime in Washington. There's a lot of drugs in Washington. There's a lot of people right near the White House where there's like drug users all over the place. Ex-JP Morgan banker Chirayu Rana was referred for mental treatment after probe into sex slave claims found nothing. Sources. So that's the guy at JP Morgan. Maybe this was just his fantasy or something. I don't know. It never became real because they said they looked into it pretty strongly. And believe me, if they find something, they will remove the person. They won't let him stay. Unless it's maybe the CEO. U.S. becomes world's biggest oil producer during Strait of Hormuz crisis. So we start this crisis, and then what happens? We're selling all kinds of oil now. But why? So if that's true, if we have all this oil, then why is our gas costing $5 and $6, $7 in some places like California? It shouldn't if we have all this gas and oil. Well, that's because they're manipulating the price, right? That's why the price of oil in the winter, the price of gas, is usually lower, right? And then as summer gets closer, and especially in the East Coast places that are cold all year, and it starts to get in the Northeast warmer, what happens? The price of gas goes up and up and up until usually by summer it's at its peak, right? You see, and then all of a sudden, when most people are driving, it's peaked, right? And then all of a sudden in September it starts to drop back down again, usually, right? Why is that? Because these people are manipulating it on purpose. It's called price gouging. Polls: 60% of voters blame Trump-hating media for latest assassination attempt. It doesn't help when you have, like I said, the media all the time just saying, hey, hate this guy, hate this guy. That's not the way we should do things. We shouldn't use our networks in this way. We shouldn't use media in this way. Media propaganda should actually be illegal, I think. And there's so many subtle forms of it. It's very hard to police, right? That's why it's used. Starmer's UK terror threat escalates as illegal boat arrivals now near 200,000. That's 250,000 new arrivals just came into a country that's already oversaturated. Right? And the people of England have had it. They've been having enough. They are fed up. You're starting to see these large protests happen now in England, right? More and more. Starmer looks like he's done. But the question is, this has been going on a long time, since before Bojo. Remember when Bojo came in and everybody, oh yeah, it's going to be Bojo. He'll fix the whole thing. No, Bojo was one of their plans too. Oh, okay, it'll be Starmer. He's the one. No, it's not. Starmer's even worse. Now you got a Muslim mayor in London, just like New York has a Muslim mayor, and you're fucked. California sends $18 million taxpayer dollars to the Tide Center, a Soros-backed dark money group. That's an article from April 2nd, 2025. Why is California sending taxpayer money to a Soros-linked group that's causing instability in different United States of America countries, in different countries in the United States, right? California has doled out nearly $18 million in taxpayer funding to the left-wing Tide Center since Gavin Newsom, Democrat, became governor in 2019. A Washington Free Beacon review of state spending records found. So, why is California giving $18 million to Soros? Does he need it? Does the Tides Foundation need it? No. But the Tides Foundation is one of the groups that's messing around inside the United States. Same as Hans-Jörg Wyss. We looked into him. He's another person that's funding a lot of this, I think, the instability in the United States. Epstein's suicide note released. Tucker Carlson is a liar and the greatest conspiracy ever. PJ Media. I never trusted Tucker Carlson completely. I don't like him. Ever since I saw him go visit Julian Assange and not come out with any information, I knew he was something was off with him. Spooked by creepy Mamdani video, billionaire prepares to flee hostile New York and take his job. So I guess you had the desired effect, right? You went outside this guy's house, you threatened people like him and his company with more taxes, and he said, you know what? I'm going to go to Texas or Florida. I like the tax scheme there. It's way more advantageous to my company. I'm going to save millions of dollars, in fact, by doing that every year. So I might as well get out of New York. It's not worth it anymore. I can always come back when Mamdani's gone. He'll be a one-term mayor, if that. And he might not even last to 4 years. I don't see him lasting 4. We'll see. At least 6 U.S. passengers from a hantavirus cruise ship have returned home. So what are you doing? I thought this thing could take weeks to manifest itself. Why weren't these people properly quarantined? Why wouldn't any country take them? And now why are you taking some of these people off the cruise ship and taking them into Nebraska, which is like the center of our country? Are you trying to spread it from there, the center out? And now some of these people have returned back to Cali and Texas and in some of the biggest states in the country. Like, why would you allow that to happen unless you're trying to spread this thing on purpose, right? I'm not too worried about it, but I'll keep an eye on it, right? Is this the second COVID they're trying to do? But it's not going to work. 2 ex-Chinese defense officials sentenced for bribery, so that's interesting. Mexico's Scheinbaum rejects Trump's criticism about drug cartels. She also urges Washington to recognize the severity of the U.S. drug consumption crisis and strengthen efforts to stop the illegal flow of firearms into Mexico. Well, we definitely have a drug consumption problem, that's for sure. Is this the same article? Well, it's the same article, but 2 different, UPI and New York Post. Same title, though. Maybe I'll just get rid of one of them. Yeah, I think I might have doubled up this article. Sorry. New York leaders desperately try to stop billionaire Biggs from fleeing city over Mamdani. It doesn't look like it's working. Star Wars star Mark Hamill deletes his Trump death post. Apologizes if people found it inappropriate. Actually, I was wishing him the opposite of dead, but apologize if you found the image inappropriate. But it didn't sound like you were. I mean, why would you post somebody like hoping that they die, like in an assassination, and then say, well, actually, I was wishing you like life? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? No, it's just that's how they do it. The stars start to do it, then you start to hate that person because you like that star, and then next thing you know, you're a rabid anti-Trump person looking to hurt somebody, right? I'm just shocked at how openly violent the Democratic Party has now appeared. But if you remember, they were violent from their beginnings. They started with the KKK was violent. That's how they stopped the vote in the South, right? Was with Democratic institutions like the KKK that was stopping African Americans from voting for many years. So that a lot of states that probably should in the South, it should have become Republican, didn't become Republican for years until years later because of cheating. Rampant cheating was going on. And also groups like the KKK were involved in scaring African Americans to the point where they would not vote. Wall Street giant Apollo aims to open second headquarters outside New York City in latest fallout. So there's another huge group that's leaving. Gretchen Whitmer ally hit with 16 criminal charges for misuse of $20 million business accelerator grant Whitmer approved. Faye Baydon was a Whitmer appointee on the Michigan Economic Development Corp. MEDC Executive Committee between 2019 and 2024. Judge grants Greg Abbott's demand for CARE's donor list. Texas Governor Greg Abbott wrote in response to the ruling, "Progress in my legal fight against CARE." So they should get the donor list. Should be able to know who's giving money to them. Trump administration to begin releasing highly anticipated UFO and extraterrestrial files. We've seen some of it. I'm not impressed. I told you, I want to see Trump on the White House lawn with an alien that's alive and living, with that day's newspaper in his hand. I want 15 or 20 of the biggest influencers in the world live streaming that fucking thing. I want to see them go up in an anti-gravitic craft and fly from New York to LA and back. And I want the whole thing filmed. I want jets flying along that thing, watching it go Mach 20. I want all of that shit. Until I'm convinced. Not this bullshit with these old freaking, things of some object movement that I can't even see what it looks like. It looks like some kid could have created it using some kind of AI software. Right? Some old radar shit that you're showing us from 30 years ago or some crap. It's got to be more convincing. Brazen carjacker who was gunned down by Texas dad protecting his family of 8 is identified as an illegal alien. So the guy that's trying to... The person who's getting carjacked turns out to be an illegal alien in his family who's not supposed to be here. And he's got a fucking firearm. How does he have that gun? Illegal alien with a gun. How did he pass a background check to get a firearm if he's an illegal alien living in the United States? How did he get a firearm? That's highly concerning because what does that mean? It means that illegal aliens here have firearms, some of them. Canadian schoolchildren forced to flee woke play about indigenous rights after sleazy drag queen character began behaving very inappropriately. So that's disgusting. If I heard my kid was in any way being exposed to any kind of a transvestite, I would remove my child from that school so fast. But a lot of people can't homeschool their kid. They have to both work. If both parents are working, how can I homeschool you? I can't be home all day to school the kid. I can't do it. I have to work too. Democrat shadow State Department. Jaya Paul is sabotaging U.S. foreign policy. Yeah, she should not be doing that. She should be, in fact, removed. That could be a treason charge. What if she's setting up some kind of illicit deal with another country that she has no way of actually delivering on? Or if she's making promises that the United States will do something that it in fact won't do. Disney lectured America about morality while child porn suspect work on its ships. And work in their parks too, no? Haven't you arrested like 20 or 30 different Disney park employees already who have had either child porn on their devices or have been caught doing something else illegal that with having something to do with children? Yeah. Muslim-only water park event organizer runs a leering center. Not learning, another leering center. Here we go again. And these people are so stupid. They make the same stupid mistake. I mean, how easy is it to check the spelling of a billboard before you put it up? Or it's like making your business card and spelling something wrong on that. It's going to show everybody that you don't know how to spell that you give the card to. You look like an idiot. Right? That's why they say, always proofread your work. Always proofread your work. Don't let a computer do it. You proofread it your fucking self. Read it out loud. Listen to how it sounds. It's not going to sound the same as it did in your head. That's why you read it out loud and you proofread your own work. FBI probing Senate intel Democrats for possible classified leaks spurred by NSA criminal referral. New probe is latest to emerge from a Trump administration crackdown on the leaks of classified secrets. It looks like some Democrats are going to go down in this thing. Because there's all kinds of leaks were happening in Trump's first term too, remember? Texas orders unauthorized Dallas Muslim University to cease operations immediately. So they were running a Muslim a Muslim college that was unaccredited, which means they're giving out a degree that's worthless because it's not accredited with the state. It was called Tex AM. Tex AM has never been granted a certificate of authority to operate in Texas. Therefore, Tex AM is prohibited by law from granting or offering to grant a degree. So they're just offering you a piece of paper. It's worthless, right? Why? Because the state doesn't recognize them. They don't have a certificate of authority to operate in Texas at all, which is what a school needs to operate in a state. Otherwise, the degree they give you is completely worthless and nobody will recognize it. So if you've enrolled in that school, you're screwed. They stole your money and you're going for a degree that's worthless. And how did that go unnoticed that long is my question. I mean, wasn't this thing there during Trump's first term and nobody noticed it was there? How did it take so long before somebody noticed it? And how many other things are like other schools or in other states? Oh, I'm getting really tired. I'll try to finish up. Egyptian national gets maximum life sentence for firebombing Colorado pro-Israel rally. During the attack, he yelled, "Free Palestine," and later expressed his intent to kill Zionists. Enjoy prison, I wrote. He's in a life sentence. Mysterious footage captures peculiar 8-pointed stars streaking across the sky. That one looked like a weird UFO. It didn't even look like... Why would I make a UFO that looked like that anyway? It doesn't make sense. How is that thing going to go like the speed of light? It's going to break apart. Just didn't look like a UFO. 2 New Jersey residents monitored for hantavirus after coming into contact with cruise ship passenger. They're trying to make it like it's right next to New York now. U.S. forces hit tankers trying to break Iran blockade as military says embargo has stalled 70 ships. State Department set to revoke passports of thousands of parents with unpaid child support. That's interesting. I've never heard that process being done before. Israel authorities arrest Palestinian policeman ISIS member connected to terrorist attacks in Israel. Even cooler UFO files coming. We'll see. I'm not impressed so far. Canyon fire explodes to 2,000 acres as it burns out of control. So this is possibly another due fire because it went from 800 acres to 2,000 acres in a day, which is like almost impossible unless you're setting a bunch of new fires, right? They have these drones that set fires now. They don't even need to do a weapon. They have fire drones that can hover and fire drones that go on the ground and set fires. So they can set fires along a whole trail line if they want to using these different drones. Trade court rejects Trump's 10% global tariffs and victory for small business. So his global tariff got shut down as well. Trump demands Hakeem Jeffries be charged with inciting violence over maximum warfare comment. This lunatic, Hakeem Low IQ Jeffries, should be charged with inciting violence. Why does he always call people low IQ? I think this is a dumb way to say it. Just say he's an idiot, a moron, a putz. Right? There's a bunch of things you could say. He's stupid. How about that? They actually want to destroy our country. Yeah, they both want to destroy our country. Can ivermectin cure hantavirus? Controversial COVID treatment touted for rat disease. I mean, I'd be taking that, yeah, first, right? If you think you're sick with something, just take some ivermectin. Take some hydroxychloroquine, whatever you want to take. Try it. Do it. Do the whole procedure the way you're supposed to take it and see what happens. I'm assuming this is not going to turn into another thing. They're going to try to make it, but I don't see how they could. Russia, Ukraine confirmed 3-day ceasefire, prisoner swaps. Murders up 300% in the New York City subway system. Robberies surged, so 300%, that's not good. U.S. sends evacuation flight to rescue 17 Americans trapped on the hantavirus cruise ship. And you're not going to bring them where? To the state-of-the-art quarantine center in Nebraska, right in the middle of the United States. Why would you bring diseased people back into the United States for? When you want to quarantine them out of the U.S. somewhere? Nope, we're bringing them right here. And then we let a whole other bunch of them get off early and let them go home. When this thing could have has a very long gestation rate, could be weeks with this thing, as much as 4 to 8 weeks, they're saying. So that means 2 months later, these people could start to get sick. San Francisco's entire BART subway network could close down as crime-ridden, permissive city struggles to pay for its 50-station network. I mean, if these people can't pay for a 50-station network, how is the New York going to pay for a network that has hundreds of stations? The only way is to massively give it huge amounts of money and just pump money into it where it can't ever tell you where all the money goes. U.S. has 0 cruise inspectors after CDC department was laid off as hantavirus on ship kills 3 and concerns spread. So the CDC laid off all the cruise ship inspectors, and now there's no one inspecting the cruise ships. So how do you know what's on the ships? Boy, I wouldn't want to work for the cruise ship industry right now. That's going to die. And it probably should. I mean, these massive ships, you know how much oil and garbage these ships create? And a lot of the garbage that they create, they just end up dumping some of it into the ocean. Don't think that they don't. They tell you they offload all their garbage, but I don't believe that. And they've been caught dumping garbage into the oceans before. Dumping their toilets out and all that stuff. Virginia Supreme Court strikes down gerrymandered maps and massive loss for Dems attempt to take 4 more House seats. So they're trying to gerrymander all over. It's both parties. GOP tops UFO crusader brands ex-Pentagon chief a documented liar as files expose America's darkest alien secrets. What about secret government programs, I wrote? What about aliens and military experimenting on human beings? Are you going to release any of that information? Because there's probably a plethora of that. Are you going to tell all the people that have different implants in their body from military MyLabs and alien, different alien interactions that they have foreign bodies in their body and that they're going to get taken out now? Are you going to tell those people that? Are you going to tell people that they were kidnapped by different people and kidnapped into different programs and then their minds wiped? Are you going to tell those people that they were experimented on? It doesn't look like it. Because if you were, it should have happened in Trump's first term. 8 of the 46 UFO videos sought by Congress appear in an upcoming documentary ahead of their official release. So there was a guy doing a documentary that you gave access to these photos before the public. Why? And I don't think these photos are that big of a fucking deal, right? Because they don't look like they are to me. They're not boggling people's minds. And then all of a sudden, people are saying, well, all the religious leaders had been told, hey, listen, they had a big meeting where all these religious leaders were told, hey, we're going to bring out all the UFO stuff, and it's going to change the way people look at the religion, and they're going to realize that the religions are all just, there to control humanity and that they were all fake, which is true, unfortunately, I think, pretty much. They're just a bunch of stories, right? And some of the people existed, but I don't think they were doing what they were saying they were doing necessarily, right? And so we have this whole story built up around that isn't exactly the story that took place, unfortunately. It's a story, and it's partially true, I think, but there's also a lot of stuff that's been left out, right? That's why they're saying there's only 60-something books in the Bible, but there was really 80-something or 100-something, whatever it was, right? The whole story got changed. Is that what's going to happen? Something's going to happen where religion's not going to be as important anymore for some reason. We're going to all come together around our shared humanity in a sense, and there won't necessarily be a religion that's popular as much anymore. I don't know. But I just think if you look at the Muslim religion especially, how that's been co-opted and the damage that that's done to humanity, as well as the Christian and Catholicism, there's a strong argument to be made that, yeah, these religions have done more harm than they've done good. Judaism as well, and can be thrown in there, right, as well as others. Look at the people who were saying, hey, who are the people that created the Burning Man? Those weren't Catholic people, those weren't Jews, those were people who claimed that they were, what's those people called? Pagans, right? The pagan religion. There was a group of people that came around, they were called the pagans, that, hey, we're going to burn a bunch of people up alive because we think it's going to help us get a better crop. Our God likes it when we burn people up alive. And you can go back thousands of years and look at many cultures that's, were killing human beings and offering them up as sacrifice. It was common to many, many different cultures. Not just one religious group either, right? Many, many, many different cultures over time. the Inca, the Aztecs, other groups would cut your heart right out of your chest, right, while you were still breathing, and because they thought that somehow it was going to help their gods and appease their god, right? I mean, who would want to worship a god that would appease that god, right? Why would you want to worship a violent god that loves violence and death? But that's what these people were doing for long periods of time. These were highly advanced cultures. These weren't, barbaric peoples. These are some of the most advanced cultures that the world had ever seen at the time. Yet they were doing some of the most barbaric acts that the world had ever seen at the same time, right? Which is it's hard to put your mind around that if you think about that logically, right? FBI files reveal reports of 4-foot-tall beings emerging from UFOs. Subway pusher was still wearing a psych ward bracelet when he shoved a teacher to his death. So within an hour of this man being released from a psych ward in New York, he had committed a murder. 1 hour later, he still had the psych ward bracelet on from being let go. So they just let these guys right back out onto the street, right? No kind of checkups, no nothing. Kills a man 1 hour after release from psych ward. The victim's family should sue this psych ward along with the city of New York. I would, for a huge sum of money. Right? Because what you did was you allowed an insane murderer back out on the street, and he killed my family member. Right? Because your city doesn't have enough resources to take care of all these with the amount of disturbed people that are there. Right? That's the problem. And the amount of people doing drugs and other things that are having mental issues is so huge you can't afford to take care of it anymore, right? That's the problem. So friends, I try to make a faster show, and in fact I make a longer one, right? I'm sorry, so what are you going to do? These things need to be said, right? This needs to happen. We need to understand what the truth really is of what's happening to us right now. And what's happening to us is you're being lied to by a group of people who are intent on controlling your mind, your body, and everything in between. And the way they're going to do it right now is it looks like they're trying to create the new matrix that they're going to transfer you into, because this one's dying and they're not going to be able to live in it anymore. So what they need to do is create a new one where that they can exist in. But the problem is you can't exist in the new matrix that you're going to create, not in this world, because the energy is shifted to a point where you can't exist because you're negatively influenced. You are 4 and 5D negative, right? And 5D negative is as far as you can go. You can't be 6D negative. It doesn't exist anymore. There's no dark in the 6D. Once you pass 5D, you can't be negative. You can't be negative anymore, as far as I understand how it works. Maybe I'm wrong. But the ego basically dissolves after 5D. There is no more ego. And a lot of the evil in the world exists because of ego, unfortunately. So friends, I hope you're well working out stretch. And I don't know how many of these I got left in me. Basically, we got to stop this ourselves. We have to highly vibrate. That's the only way we can defeat these people. And we got to come together inside of our own humanity and our shared humanity. And all these NPCs that are fucking around causing the problems and shit, they're going to be gone in a while. They won't be able to exist in this new energy. They will just fall away. That's what you're seeing. And so we just need to be... You just need to defend your own energy right now. Stay high vibration. Stay doing what you've been doing. Keep your shields up and keep yourself shielded and protected. And keep yourself healthy. That's the best thing I could tell you to do right now. Stay in your center, stretch, work out, ground, shield. Eat the healthiest foods you can find. Try not to use a lot of the products that they use with heavy metals and things of that nature inside of them, right? Try to open your third eye. Try to eat healthier and lose weight. Try to ground and shield yourself each day and stretch to keep your body and your mind strong. And hopefully soon things will start to alleviate, because I could feel the pressure that these people are putting onto us is starting to waver. This might be one of their last big pushes. To try to affect the negativity in this world. We have to stay positive. It's hard. It's a frequency war. That's what this really is. It's not an information war. It's a frequency war. The information is just a weapon. That's it. Right? The information is the light. information travels in the light, which means we're bringing the information and the light at the same time, the truth. And once that truth shines bright, it can't be extinguished again, because people will realize that a lie was told to us. We were kept in the dark for a reason, and the dark is the absence of the information that you need to illuminate yourself so that you understand what's really happening. It's like what happened with the slaves when they learned to read. They realized, oh, this is the weapon they used against us. They kept the information from us so that I can't get out of my condition because I don't even know what it is. I don't know the mechanisms of how it works. How can I defeat slavery if I don't know the mechanisms in which it works and how it works and who created it? All right? Just like this matrix, we got to defeat. Who created it? How do we defeat it? How do we unplug from it? How do we vibrate so high that we can't exist in it anymore and that they can't see us anymore? So friends, I hope you're well. This is your friend in New York, Ash, NPMP News, signing off for now.